Chapter 181, Tier 6 Skill, Covenant of the Dying Spiral. Without even a word, Madoran hovers above the city like a burning god of fire. His crimson armor glows white-hot at the joints, molten veins pulsing like a second heartbeat beneath the plates. His hand stretches out, open, then closes into a fist. A deep hum echoes across the sky as heat coils around him, air warping violently. Then, in a single, fluid motion, he releases it. A Tier 5 skill slams down from the heavens, a roaring fist of flame and force, wrapped in spiraling embers and screaming winds, aimed directly at the center of Breenhall. But nothing. No screams. No running.
No panic.
Not a single soldier flinches. A split second before impact, a wave of pitch-black energy erupts from the ground, swallowing the attack whole. The flame disappears with a muffled hiss, like a candle snuffed out underwater. Not even smoke remains. Madoran's brow rises in visible surprise. And then, a voice, sultry and amused, threads through the air like silk laced with thorns. "That's very rude of you," Lysaria says. "Not even a greeting first?" She steps into view atop a spire, hair drifting in the wind, her body wrapped in flowing battle robes threaded with curse glyphs. Her eyes glow like twin moons, and the grin on her lips is dangerous. Gresvin appears behind Madoran, floating without motion, like a shadow that simply decided to exist in the open. His mismatched eyes scan the city below, calm and detached. Madoran throws his head back and laughs, a booming, guttural sound that rolls across the city. "Now this is a surprise," he bellows. "There's 2 Tier SIXS in this backwater continent. I thought you rats were just playing with stolen power." Lysaria tilts her head, lips twitching. "Backwater? Funny. Coming from someone who announces himself with fireworks." Gander rises beside her, his staff in one hand, curses coiling around the other like serpents. He doesn't bother speaking. His presence alone radiates venom and cold calculation. Gresvin finally speaks, voice low and flat. "Interesting. They're not illusions. They're real." His gaze lingers on Gander, then shifts to Lysaria. Her presence is layered, built for pain. Madoran grins wider, flames licking the edges of his helm. "Doesn't matter. I like this. It's been a while since I stretched properly." Lysaria licks her lips slowly, deliberately, eyes gleaming with a cruel, delighted hunger. The wind catches her hair, whipping it like strands of shadow in the red-black sky. "Your life will be my thank you gift for his majesty," she purrs. "So try to scream loud enough for him to hear it." The moment hangs, and then vanishes in a detonation of motion and power. Madoran roars, igniting the sky around him. Fire blossoms from his body like wings of a phoenix, and in a heartbeat, he's already closed the distance, flaming gauntlet hurtling toward Lysaria's skull. She doesn't dodge. Tier 5 skill, Witherveil Cloak. Black mist explodes from her form, forming a veil of decay around her. Madoran's fist slams into her body, and passes through smoke. A decoy, a curse-layered afterimage. Behind him, Lysaria hisses. Tier 5 skill, Noxious Requiem. A shockwave of violet and green curse energy ripples outward. Madoran's armor screams as the magic eats at the ember-forged steel, black veins spreading along the plates. Meanwhile, Gander lifts his staff, eyes locked on Gresvin. "You're standing still. Let me fix that." Tier 5 skill, Bind of 1,000 Tongues. Dozens of shadowy cords burst from the ground like snakes, each etched with runes and the echo of screams. They lash out toward Gresvin, who remains motionless. Then, Tier 5 skill, Voidwalk. Gresvin vanishes. Not teleports, ceases to exist for a heartbeat. The tendrils snap through empty space. He reappears beside Gander, hand reaching for his throat. But Gander is already chanting. Tier 5 skill, Echo of the Dying Curse. A dome of black smoke explodes outward from Gander, filled with whispering voices. Gresvin halts his strike, his arm trembling, his body remembering pain that hasn't happened yet. His voice is flat, but edged. "You're clever." Gander smiles without warmth. "You're stalling. Let me guess. He's the hammer, you're the knife. Who cares about that bastard? I will kill you, then I will kill that bastard next." Madoran, enraged by the corrosion on his armor, lifts both arms. Tier 5 skill, Solar Devastation. A miniature sun forms in his palm. Condensed, writhing fire pressed into the size of a spearhead. He hurls it downward at Lysaria. She doesn't dodge. She sings. Tier 5 skill, Dirge of the Leper Queen. Her voice vibrates the sky, low and discordant, as necrotic energy coats the battlefield. The sunstrike collides, but instead of a blast, it melts into a pit of black sludge midair, warped by her plague domain. She twirls once, releasing another curse with a flick of her wrist. Tier 5 skill, Abyssal Bloom. A field of ghostly flowers erupts around Madoran, each one draining magic on contact. He flares in resistance, but his aura dims, just slightly. "You're leaking," she mocks. "Maybe you should have stretched harder." The rooftop trembles faintly beneath their boots, not from impact, but from the sheer pressure of power in the skies above. Varkas narrows his eyes, watching the explosive chaos unfold. For figures clash in the air, surrounded by pulses of color and darkness. Tiered magic woven so tightly it looks like warping reality. He clicks his tongue. Are they really using Tier 5 skills? Beside him, Goroth stands with arms folded, his massive frame unmoving despite the distant shockwaves. His eyes track every movement with a predator's focus. They are, Goroth replies, voice gravelly, but it's more proper to call them semi-Tier 6. Varkas looks at him sideways. How so? Goroth nods toward the sky. Because it's not just the skill, it's the user. Same reason our Tier 4s are far more powerful than the Tier 4 skills conjured by Tier 4 powerhouses. Power isn't in the tier, it's in us. Varkas watches as Lysaria disappears into smoke again, her plague song unraveling Madoran's flames with contemptuous ease. Ha, fair point. They're weaving those skills like tools, not weapons. Goroth's eyes glint as Gander counters Gresvin's blade-like pressure with a single chant, unraveling a shadow construct before it finishes forming. They've fought stronger, Goroth mutters. You can see it. That calm. Varkas watches as Lysaria glides through a slash of flame without breaking stride, her curse aura peeling flesh from steel. Yeah, he says, smirking slightly, and they're enjoying it. The sky rumbles again, another Tier 5 collision. This time, not an explosion, but a collapse, like reality recoiling from the layered curses and elemental fury clashing overhead. Varkas exhales through his nose. If this is Tier 5, Goroth grunts. Wait until they actually start using their Tier 6 arsenal. Lysaria growls, flinging another pulse of rot toward Madoran, only for him to detonate at midair with another solar flare. She skids backward across the wind, irritation flashing in her eyes. Across the sky, Gander slams his staff into the air, chains of runes snapping into existence. But again, Gresvin vanishes, slipping through space like a knife through silk. Lysaria clicks her tongue sharply, eyes narrowing. This is getting tedious. Gander's fingers tighten around his staff, jaw locked in silent concentration as Gresvin dances through space like smoke. Another attack slips past, another moment wasted. Then, a voice slides into his mind, smooth and cold. Gander, I hear you. This isn't working. They refuse to coordinate. I noticed. His tone is dry, laced with barely restrained annoyance. If they won't fight as a pair. He smiles thinly. Then we make them. He lifts his gaze, locking eyes with Lysaria across the battlefield. Out loud, calm and cutting, he speaks. Then we let them work together. Lysaria grins immediately, wicked and beautiful. They're going to hate this. The air between them twists, space bends, light fractures. Their voices rise in perfect synchrony, ancient syllables pouring from their lips, the chant deeper than sound, resonating in marrow and soul. Tier 6 skill, Covenant of the Dying Spiral. A vortex of black and violet light explodes from their palms, spiraling outward like a blooming death flower. Threads of pure mana arc from Gander's staff and Lysaria's fingers, intertwining midair. The moment their energies meet, a shockwave rolls across the battlefield, silent but undeniable. Every cloud in the sky bends away. Between them, a spectral sigil spins into being, half curse, half construct. It anchors to their chests with glowing brands, and in the next heartbeat, their souls connect. Gander gasps softly, breath caught in his throat. He feels it immediately, her madness, Hiarut, her hatred and joy, burning elegance. It coils with his precision, his venom, his cold, patient fury. Mana roars through their veins like twin rivers crashing into one sea. Lysaria shudders with delight, a moan escaping her lips. Gods, yes, Gander said. Control yourself. Madoran halts midair, eyes narrowing as he feels the pressure spike. What the hell did they just? Lysaria's body rises, slow and deliberate, eyes glowing brighter than ever. You're not the center of this battlefield anymore, she purrs at Madoran. Gander steps forward, staff raised high. You're the experiment. They speak in unison, voices echoing as one. Let's see how well you work together. Then they move. Faster. Heavier. Wrong. Lysaria vanishes into vapor, then reappears behind Gresvin, a curse spear already forming in her hand. Its tip drips with coalesced entropy, screaming silently. At the same instant, Gander's staff cracks the sky, summoning a web of anti-space glyphs that lock Madoran in midair for just a flicker of time. Just enough. Tier 6 skill, Malediction Symphony. A field erupts between them, comprised of layered curses, harmonic vibrations of death and rot. Each beat of their linked souls sends a pulse of destabilizing energy across the air. Flames sputter, shadows recoil. Chapter 182. The Death of Madoran and Gresvin. Madoran snarls, throwing up a wall of molten light. Lysaria speaks calmly. Break it. Gander answers without delay. Done. He slams his palm forward. Curse chains burst from the vortex, wrapping around the solar wall. The moment it hesitates, Lysaria's plague-laced spear tears through it like wet cloth. Madoran barely avoids a lethal blow, barely. Gresvin is not as lucky. A chain lashes out from behind him, laced with predictive binding. It wraps his ankle, dragging him mid-dodge into Lysaria's wake. Her palm brushes his chest, only a touch, but curses bloom like flowers. Tier 5 skill. Decay Mark Pulse. They detonate a heartbeat later. Gresvin is blasted back, cloak torn, aura flickering. He vanishes again, but slower. Madoran snarls, teeth bared beneath his helm as he whips around to catch Gresvin struggling to stabilize in the air. Curses still eating away at his aura. The scent of scorched mana and rot burns in his nostrils. We don't have a choice now, he growls. Either we work together or we die here, along with whatever pride we've got left. He eyes the unholy storm building between Gander and Lysaria, the black sun above them writhing with cursed threads and ethereal runes, pulsing like a heart that shouldn't beat. It's getting worse by the second. Gresvin clicks his tongue, brushing scorched fabric from his shoulder, his tone laced with disgust. This is the first and last time I'll do something like this with the likes of you, Ember Claw Trash. Madoran smirks, heat flaring behind his visor. That's the spirit. They move together. Tier 6 skill. Concord of Cataclysm, Madoran. Madoran slams both fists together, and a ring of molten runes ignites around his body. His aura spikes. Raw, radiant heat floods the sky, forcing even the clouds to split apart. Fire and solar force spiral into his limbs, his armor gleaming with threads of living magma. His speed doubles. His power triples. Tier 6 skill. Echo Null, Gresvin. A wave of colorless light bursts from Gresvin's body. Sound and light vanish around him. His figure blurs, untouchable, nearly dimensionless. Time skips subtly in his presence. For 5 seconds, he exists in multiple moments, his strikes delayed and then colliding all at once. They launch. Gresvin flickers beside Gander with impossible speed, his blades humming with Tier 6 skill. Shadow Severance. An attack that slices not body, but presence. Gander chants without fear, his staff already flaring with a retaliatory curse. But it's Madoran who crashes in first, streaking through the air like a solar comet.
Tier 6 skill, Supernova Lance.
He dives toward Lysaria, who twirls midair to meet him, her eyes glowing with unnatural calm. From her palm, she conjures, Tier 6 skill, Heart of the Withered Moon. A silver-black sigil blooms and then detonates in silence, slowing time in a radius and flooding the space with necrotic stasis. Madoran's lance clashes into it, and explodes, but instead of flames, a storm of silence and entropy wraps around him. Madoran screams, body fighting against the death aura suffocating his fire. Gander chants again. Tier 6 skill, Dread Choir Ascendant. Ghostly voices begin to sing behind him, a chorus of forgotten names, echoing through folded space. Each word tears into Gresvin's echo null like knives. He falters, his dimensional shift fractures. He flickers into full view. Lysaria doesn't waste the opening. Tier 6 skill, Black Eden Thorns. Thorned vines of plague-stained glass burst from every direction, reflecting light, twisting curses, folding space. They spiral into Gresvin's position like a blooming lotus of death. Gresvin slashes 3 away, but a 4th scrapes his side, and the wound sings. Tier 6 skill, Pale Judgment, Gresvin. He inhales once, deeply, then exhales. In that breath, every light source dims. A sickly white ripple spreads from him, erasing magic in its path. The thorns vanish, the curses evaporate. Down below, the city hums faintly under the protective dome, its translucent barrier shimmering with strain as each pulse from the sky above batters it like waves against glass. Dust drifts from rooftops, street lamps flicker, and though silence reigns among the citizens hiding in reinforced shelters, 2 figures remain atop a tower, unmoving. Varkas leans forward on the edge, arms crossed. His sharp eyes don't blink, don't look away. Not even when the sky above tears in half from clashing Tier 6 power. A massive explosion of black and red blooms above, silent yet cataclysmic, and the barrier wails faintly in protest. Hells! Varkas murmurs. We saw Tier 6 fights all the time back in the old world. Even lived through a few. He exhales slowly, almost reverently. But damn if it still doesn't leave you speechless every time. Gorith stands beside him, arms folded, his towering frame completely still despite the tremors beneath his boots. His eyes follow the chaos above without blinking. You're right, he rumbles. If not for this barrier, the city would have been flattened a dozen times already. Varkas chuckles dryly, but there's no humor in it. What gets me isn't just the power, it's the control. You see that? He nods toward the spiraling vortex where Gander and Lysaria stand, twin beacons of devastation. They're weaving curses and plague skills like they're painting. That's not just power, that's artistry. The sky pulses again. Madoran slamming through a barrier of plague glass while Gresvin snaps forward with a ripple of white judgment, erasing curses by sheer force of will. After a couple of tense minutes, the air stills slightly. The storm in the heavens begins to fray, its furious tempo slowing. Not by will, but by exhaustion. Gorith narrows his eyes. Looks like the fight is coming to an end. Above, the battleground in the sky burns with flickering remnants of what was once overwhelming power. The black sun has dimmed. The vortex of cursed light unravels. and the Tier 6 warriors hover there, battered, burned, bloodied. Madoran hovers a few meters above a destroyed mountain, his breath ragged behind his scorched helm. The molten runes around him flicker, dimming. His armor, once gleaming with threads of living fire, now bleeds steam and ash with every strained movement. Across from him, Gresvin levitates with effort, one hand pressed against a bleeding gash at his side. His white ripple, pale judgment, has long faded, and the lingering energy of Echo Null is gone. The flickers that once made him unreadable are no more. He's fully visible now and vulnerable. Only one Tier 6 skill each remains. Across the battlefield, Lysaria hovers with unnerving poise, one arm dripping black ichor, the other still calmly holding her plague-forged spear. Her robes are torn, blood marking her side, but her aura remains stable, cruelly composed. Beside her, Gander's robes are shredded and his staff dims slightly, but his presence pulses darkly with unspent malice. The twisted chorus of dread choir ascendant still hums around him, quieter now but far from gone. Lysaria tilts her head, smirking faintly as she surveys the scorched battlefield. Her voice cuts through the fading haze. "Is that it?" she says mockingly. "Was this the best your continent could offer? How disappointing. I suppose this is where it ends." Gresvin snarls, coughing smoke from his lungs. He grits his teeth, eyes locked on the two standing across from them. "You too," he spits. "You're not from here. There's no way this barren continent spawned monsters like you." Gander chuckles, dark and unbothered. He steps forward, lifting his broken staff. It sparks with residual curse fire. "Who cares where we came from?" he says coldly. "You chose to oppose his majesty, and for that, his staff points at them. You die here today." No more words. They move. Final clash. Gresvin vanishes in a flicker, reappearing behind Lysaria with a blur of lightless momentum. His remaining Tier 6 skill activates. Tier 6 skill, Temporal Severance. The blade in his hand sings with layered timelines. It slices through possibility itself. Every swing is a question asked in parallel, and all answers land at once. He aims for Lysaria's spine, heart, throat, each strike designed to kill. But Lysaria is ready. Tier 6 skill, Witherveil Spiral. She turns, and her entire form becomes a vortex of rot and mirrored glass. His first strike lands and passes through an afterimage. The second catches a decoy. The third finally meets flesh. Blood splashes across the sky. But her spear is already in motion. She drives it into his abdomen mid-spin. A direct hit. Down below, Madoran ignites. Tier 6 skill, Solemn Infernum. His body becomes a core of sunfire, gravity, heat, and wrath condensed into a humanoid shape. He rockets forward, becoming a meteor of fury and flame aimed straight at Gander. Gander responds with his final card. Tier 6 skill, Monarch's Curse Field. He slams his cracked staff into the air, and a dome of inverted runes blossoms outward. Reality folds. Madoran's fire bends around it, his momentum slowing as if he's diving through treacle. But he keeps coming, body tearing apart from within. Their collision is deafening. Fire meets curse. Heaven cracks. Two cataclysmic explosions erupt in the sky, one black, one red. Ripples tear through the clouds as shockwaves roll across the heavens, warping light and rattling the very city below. The protective barrier shudders under the weight of impact, groaning as threads of golden and obsidian energy grind against each other. Madoran is the first to recover, barely. His body flickers with cracks of molten light, leaking power from every joint. Blood drips behind his visor as he reaches inside his charred cloak and pulls out a small obsidian token, an emergency escape item, forged from forbidden solarite and void crystal. He channels mana into it. Nothing happens. His eyes widen. Gresvin, panting and bleeding from the mouth, does the same. He draws a thin crystalline shard from a belt pouch and snaps it between two fingers. Spatial energy sparks for a heartbeat, and then fizzles into smoke.
No, Gresvin breathes.
Chapter 183, Building Portals, Part 1. They both try again. Harder. Madoran pours more power into the token until it glows red-hot in his hand. Gresvin attempts to stabilize the dimensional matrix of his shard with runic chant. Neither item responds. Across the battlefield, Lysaria watches them with a slow, amused blink. Her plague spear spins lazily in one hand, the tip slick with Gresvin's blood. She lets out a quiet, musical laugh that doesn't match the blood drying on her jaw. "Oh, did you really think you could run?" she says lightly, almost playfully. "How sweet." Madoran grits his teeth. "You're blocking spatial transfer." Obviously, she cuts in, voice sharp with mockery. "This entire zone is under the influence of a Tier 7 item, Seal of Ashen Heaven. Anything that tries to breach this space, teleportation, shifting, dimensional phasing won't even sputter. You're caged." Madoran's breath hitches. "A Tier 7 item?" He stares at the battlefield, disbelief warring with panic in his scorched expression. "Only my leader has access to that kind of artifact. Who are you?" His voice cracks through the haze like a blade, aimed directly at Gander. Gander tilts his head slightly, as if the question is a mild inconvenience. He walks forward slowly, each step echoing with the subtle resonance of suppressed power. The faint hum of the dread choir ascendant lingers behind him, like the whisper of a funeral dirge. "You've asked that already," he says, voice cold and smooth. "This is the second time." Madoran clenches his fists. "Answer me." Gander stops just out of reach, his face calm, eyes shadowed beneath the torn edge of his hood. "And my answer remains the same." His staff lifts, runes dimly pulsing. "It's none of your concern." Madoran snarls and lunges forward, molten light surging through his limbs in one last desperate charge. Too slow. Gander moves like falling night. One whisper of a curse, null womb, and Madoran freezes mid-stride, eyes wide in shock as time falters within him. A moment later, Gander is in front of him. The broken staff slams through Madoran's chest. A soundless impact, then a sharp exhale of breath and silence. Madoran's body drops, smoldering, lifeless. Gresvin lets out a hoarse cry, rage and despair warping his features. He lifts his blade again, but Lysaria is already there. Her spear punctures his thigh, spins, and drives upward. The movement is elegant, clinical. He coughs blood, eyes wide in disbelief. "We were Tier 6s. You were..." Lysaria murmurs, her voice as calm as falling snow. She leans in close, watching the light fade from his eyes. "But you were never important." With one final twist, her spear severs spine from soul. Gresvin crumples without another word, his body falling like so much discarded ash. A hush spreads across the battlefield. Then, the sky clears, the cursed winds die, and in the city below, silence. For a moment, no one dares to move. Thousands of soldiers stand frozen on walls, towers, and the streets behind them, still bracing for death that never came. Then a single voice shouts, raw and disbelieving, "They're dead." Another cries out, "We won. They're really dead." A wave of sound erupts. Cheers explode from the battlements like cannon fire. Helmets are raised, weapons thrust skyward. The city's defenders scream themselves hoarse as the impossible sinks in. They lived. Soldiers clutch each other, some laughing, others weeping. A monster soldier near the east wall sinks to his knees. That was scary. It felt like the sky was tearing apart. He breaks down and no one mocks him. A captain slaps the young monster's back, grinning like a man who's forgotten what fear feels like. "Do you know what this means?" he says hoarsely. "The kingdom has a Tier 6. We have a Tier 6. Voices pick up the cry across the wall. "Tier 6. They're one of ours. I thought they were just a legend. The founders of the 3 great kingdoms were the last ones. That was 1,000 years ago." In the quiet warmth of his private chamber, Alex sits in silence. A soft hum cuts through the stillness. Faint. Before him floats a transparent screen, glowing faintly in the golden candlelight. Status window. Alex. Level 500. Gold coins. 8090, 637. Erevaris Kingdom. Cities, 20. Population, 14, 678086. Population needed for next level, 30 million. He leans back slightly in his high-back chair, one elbow resting on the armrest, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "Level 500, he murmurs. The number doesn't bring satisfaction, only a distant acknowledgement of the work still ahead. He drums his fingers against the armrest, the soft tapping lost in the quiet of the room. "I've already taken 2 of the 3 kingdoms. Cities are stable. Refugees are coming in by the thousands." His gaze lingers on the floating numbers. "But even with all that, I'm still short." His eyes drift upward, thoughtful. The monsters that joined, the beast clans, the different tribes, even the ones hiding in the southern marshes, all of that, and I'm still under. He lets out a short breath, somewhere between annoyance and curiosity. The screen flickers slightly as if reacting to his thoughts. The glowing numbers stay unchanged. He continues quietly, "It means I've reached the ceiling of what this continent alone can give me." Alex leans forward, calling up his inventory with a flick of his fingers. A new screen opens beside the status window, a translucent list unfolding in the air with faint metallic chimes. Rows of artifacts, soul shards, sealed tomes, and rare materials slide past until he pauses on a glowing blueprint marked Intercity Portal Node. 1 million gold. A small smile touches his lips. HM. 1 million per portal. He tilts his head, and it links cities together. Fast movement between key locations. That'll save time. Consolidate supply lines, reaction forces, internal defense. He glances at the lower right corner of the screen. Current gold. 8090, 637. 8 million, he murmurs, down from 60. His eyes flick briefly, and for a moment, his expression softens. Not with regret, but quiet certainty. "Worth it," he says aloud. 50 million to bring Lysaria back. He returns to the blueprint list, then taps on the portal node. Another design appears. Continental Gateway. 3 million gold. The smile fades into a more calculating expression. "So, 1 million per intercity portal. I can build 5. He leans back again, eyes glinting with quiet focus. That'll cost me 5 million. A pause. Leaves me with just enough for the gateway. Alex's eyes narrow slightly. Without hesitation, he reaches out with his mind. Thano. The connection is instant. The sensation like brushing his thoughts against a distant wire. A heartbeat later, he feels the minister's reply. Alert. Steady. Your Majesty? Alex doesn't speak aloud. The mental voice is direct, commanding. Come to my private chamber. Immediately. Moments later, a faint shimmer of magic signals Thano's arrival. The door to the chamber opens with a gentle click, and the Minister of Infrastructure steps through. His robe still dusted with parchment ash and faint traces of old chalk, the mark of someone pulled straight from drafting tables. You called for me, Your Majesty? Thano bows, composed but curious. Alex turns in his chair and gestures to the glowing screen still hovering beside him. With a thought, he materializes 5 blueprints from his inventory. The glowing schematics of the intercity portal nodes float in midair between them, softly rotating. Take these, Alex says evenly. I want them built immediately in this 5 cities. Thano's eyes flick over the designs. His posture straightens. Intercity portals? These will change everything. He hesitates only a second before nodding firmly. Understood. We'll begin construction at once. Coordination between those 5 cities will improve tenfold. Alex nods once. Prioritize central node placement and structural resilience. I don't want any disruption, magical or otherwise. Keep the anchors well protected. Thano places a hand over his chest. It will be done, Your Majesty. I'll personally oversee the construction. Good. Alex's gaze lingers on the continental map for a moment, then shifts back to Thano. Once they're online, I'll be building the next portal on another continent. Thano blinks. Oh, there are still other continents? Yes. Alex's voice is quiet, but unyielding. We've reached our ceiling here. The next stage begins soon. Thano bows again, this time lower. Then I'll ensure your foundation is solid, sire. The portals will be ready. Alex dismisses him with a nod, and Thano turns swiftly, cloak sweeping behind him as he strides from the room, already sending silent commands to his engineers before the door even closes. The next day, in Mizorn City, the first city Alex ever conquered, things are stirring. Once little more than a fractured stronghold on the edge of survival, Mizorn now stands as a breathtaking marvel of design and power. Its towers rise like polished bone and crystal above the verdant hills. Arched walkways loop between structures glowing faintly with embedded runes, and shimmering canals wind through the city like veins of silver-blue light. Even the air here is different, thicker with mana. Its spires and central domes glitter under the rising sun, and its wide, clean roads are packed with all manner of life. Monsters, mostly, beastkin, scaled folk, winged hybrids, arachne vendors, and even a few polite ogres in trimmed coats, all bustling peacefully in the streets. Because something is happening in the heart of the city, near the great plaza surrounding the Crystal Archive. A vast curtain of white light has emerged from nothingness, tall as a fortress wall and humming gently. It's translucent. Yet behind it, there's nothing but blinding glow. A slow, holy-sounding pulse emanates from it every few seconds, like a heartbeat echoing through the stone. They've seen it before, and they know what it means. Something is being built. Chapter 184. Building Portals, Part 2. After a couple of hours, the curtain of light begins to dissolve. Slowly, like fog under a rising sun. The glow softens, dimming in waves, and then, thwum. A sudden gust of energy rushes outward as the last remnants of the veil vanish. The crowd gathered in Mizorn gasps as one, all eyes locked on the newly revealed structure at the heart of the plaza. It stands like a crown of marble and obsidian. Arched gates woven with glowing filigree, shimmering runes etched into the frame, pulsing gently with power. A dome of crystal above the structure rotates slowly, channeling ambient mana into the node. Within the gate, a swirling pool of silver light shimmers. Active. The portal is open. For a heartbeat, the monsters are silent. Then a young harpy in the crowd lets out a shriek of joy. It's done. It's really the legendary portal. By the gods, look at that beauty! An elderly troll mutters, leaning on his cane, eyes wide with reverence. Minister Thano wasn't kidding. This thing's a miracle. A pair of foxkin merchants start hopping in place. Do you think it connects to the others already? One asks. Who cares? I'm jumping in first, shouts a bulky minotaur youth, pushing forward with laughing eyes. The excitement spreads like fire through dry grass. Children scamper closer to the gate, held back by laughing parents. Traders with carts are already discussing routes. Guards post themselves instinctively at its sides, not out of fear, but pride. It's opening Kraz too, someone shouts from the back, waving a communication crystal. I just got word. People are already stepping out of the portal there. The cheers rise louder. In Dalan City, far to the east, known for its artisan guilds and majestic forges, the scene is no less electric. Crowds gather in the Artisan Plaza, where sculptors, enchanters, and master smiths pause their work to witness the unveiling. As the light fades, revealing their own intercity portal, A slender lizard folk with golden spectacles gasps. The craftsmanship on that gate? Who built this? It's divine work. A dwarf-shaped golem, humming softly beside him, claps its stone hands together. Function and form at last. We can send apprentices to Mizorn for rare ores without waiting weeks. From the steps of the Stonewheel Foundry, Guildmaster Renki folds his arms, nodding in approval. All hail the king, he says gruffly. This is a miracle. In Veristan City, the site of the Celestia Magisterium Academy, the students have poured out of their domed lecture halls. Robes flap in the wind. Young monsters of every kind, scaled, horned, winged, and shadow-wrapped, gather near the tower's southern courtyard where the portal has formed. Oh, look, it's glowing like an arcane reactor. A young Naga squeals, floating slightly from excitement. A bat-winged professor adjusts her monocle. No, this is far more advanced. The spatial layering alone. Do you feel the binding spell around it? More than Tier 5. At least. The gate hums once, and a handful of civilians from Mizorn walk through, blinking in surprise as they step onto Veristan's soil. The students lose it. I want to go to CRS, one shouts.
I'm visiting Delan.
I've always wanted to see the singing anvils. Forget class today. This is historic. Inside the highest spire of the Celestia Magisterium Academy, the air smells faintly of scorched paper and old ink. Magical scrolls hum quietly from their racks. The walls of the headmaster's office are lined with tomes, crystal globes, and jars of rare beast eyes. But at this moment, none of it matters. Groth stands on the wide stone balcony just outside his office, clawed hands resting on the smooth railing, his long crimson tail twitching behind him. The wind carries the distant cheers of students and citizens below, but his golden eyes are fixed squarely on the swirling, silver gate that now pulses in the courtyard. The old salamander's voice is rough and low, like coal scraping iron. So, it's real. His molten gaze narrows slightly. He watches the portal churn and shimmer with otherworldly power, its energy pressing against the very air like the breath of a slumbering god. Groth doesn't move, doesn't blink. He just stares. Then he lets out a slow, smoky breath through his nostrils, steam curling from the corners of his mouth. Your Majesty, he mutters under his breath, the edges of his voice worn with awe and disbelief. You are full of surprises. His clawed hand rises, gently stroking the edge of his jaw as if to reassure himself he's still awake. Portals, real portals, in my lifetime. He chuckles once, dry and disbelieving. Never thought I would see one. We used to call them legends. Lost magic. He shakes his head slowly, voice quiet but laced with reverence. And yet here you are, building them in a day. Groth turns his gaze skyward, toward the distant direction of the Noctara city. There's no way to see Alex from here, but it doesn't matter. In Kraz, the trade capital, things move faster. The second the light fades, merchant caravans already waiting at the base of the plaza surge forward. Porters load boxes. Couriers sprint toward the gate. Money changes hands at record speed. A grizzled orc merchant grins as he flips a gold coin into the air. You know what this means? He says to his partner. A sleek goblin in a bright vest. The goblin grins. Business. Big business. New customers, new routes, same taxes. The orc chuckles. Praise the king. Around them, traders are already stepping into the portal with bags of goods, slipping through to Mizorn and beyond. And in the fifth city, Noraeast, the frontier city closest to the southern marshlands, things are different, but no less electric. Here, the population is wilder, more rugged. Beasts with coarse fur, swamp-scaled lizard folk, towering insectoids, and outcast mutants roam the streets. The city's architecture is rough-hewn and fortified, built for defense against what lurks in the wilds beyond. When the curtain of light fades, even the wind pauses. Then a chittering hiss erupts from a mantis woman standing near the front. It worked! A deep-voiced ogre near her slams his fists together with a booming laugh. No more swamp slogging. We're finally connected. We're on the map, baby! A two-headed kobold screeches in perfect unison, tail flicking with glee. The portal pulses once, then stabilizes with a resonant hum. A group of armored beastkin step through from Mizorn, blinking against the brightness of Noraeast's crimson sky. The crowd breaks into a roar. Look at them! Someone yells from the crowd. They came straight through. That's real, it's real. One of the marshborn lizardfolk kneels low, clawed fingers splayed on the stone at the gate's base. Solid mana foundation. Old magic, real old. His voice is reverent. This isn't just technology. This is history reborn. Far across the sea, the light of the portal dims behind Alex and Thano as they step out onto rough, untouched ground. The air here is heavier, untouched by civilization for centuries, wild and brimming with old mana. Here we are, Thano mutters, adjusting the satchel on his hip and scanning the terrain. Alex nods, his gaze calm as he surveys the surroundings. The field is flat and surrounded by distant ridges of blackstone hills. Perfect place to anchor a new gate. Thano wastes no time. With a gesture, he calls over a team of builders and enchanters already waiting on standby. elite specialists that had come through ahead of them. Wooden crates of materials, glowing crystals, and metallic rods are already being unpacked. The minister claps once, sharp and clear. Form the base circle. Mages, stabilize the ley line flow. Enchanters, follow me. Construction begins at a rapid pace. In moments, runes are carved into the soil. Floating anchors rise, humming softly as they align. The very earth starts to pulse with latent energy as the frame for the new portal begins to form, an elegant echo of the others, but raw and incomplete. Alex watches in silence, hands behind his back. But then, flicker. A crimson glow pulses softly from a metal token hooked to Alex's waist. Another pulse, then a third, faster and insistent. Thano wipes sweat from his brow, a long iron beam hovering in place beside him, suspended by mana threads. Sparks flicker from a nearby forge, casting a glow on the half-finished structure towering behind him. Alex approaches, his steps firm. I'll be heading out for a bit. Thano glances over his shoulder, eyes squinting against the firelight. All right, after you come back, everything will be done and ready, Your Majesty. Alex gives a small nod. Good. Back at the base, the air is cooler, quieter. The moon hangs high above the dark stone walls as Alex steps through the arrival gate. Gander follows close behind. Lathar is at his desk, scrawling something across a stack of reports when the shimmer of the gate catches his eye. He looks up, surprise flickering across his face. Oh, you're back already? He asks, standing. Where's that person you were with? Alex adjusts his cloak, voice steady. They called another meeting. As for him, he already left, he will be back. Lathar raises an eyebrow. Another meeting, huh? Must be something serious, then. It is, Alex replies. That's why we need to go. Lathar doesn't miss a beat. He grabs his coat from the nearby stand. Then I'm coming with you. Alex gives him a brief nod, then gestures toward the inner teleportation hall. Let's move. They step through the portal, the runes flaring around them. A heartbeat later, the two appear in the central building, already humming with activity. Officers and aides move quickly through the halls, papers and crystal tablets in hand. No time is wasted. They walk with purpose, their boots echoing sharply against the polished obsidian floor. Guards stand at attention as they pass, some saluting, others quickly stepping aside. Chapter 185. Astrum arrive at Valgro's kingdom. They reach the doors of the meeting chamber. Inside, almost every seat is already filled. The circular obsidian table gleams beneath the hovering light orbs, and tension buzzes faintly in the air. Unspoken, but ever present. As soon as Alex steps in, a few heads turn. Lathar follows closely behind, his posture relaxed but alert. Brocker, who's already lounging near the edge of the room with one foot propped up against the wall, spots Lathar and grins wide. Look who decided to show up, he calls out, loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. Didn't expect you to crawl back so soon after getting flattened, Lathar. Lathar snorts. Flattened? Please, we both know I'd leave you eating dirt in a real duel. Brocker gives a sharp bark of laughter. You still dreaming about that one spar where you almost landed a hit? Damn, you're persistent. Persistent enough to keep on winning in every duel we have. Lathar shoots back smoothly as he moves toward the table. Unlike you, who probably fought his way into command by headbutting a wall until someone got bored. That earns a few quiet laughs from the nearby commanders, though no one interrupts the back and forth. Brocker raises both hands mockingly. Fair. Walls don't talk back. Lathar slides into his seat without missing a beat. Neither do you once your jaw's broken. Brocker laughs again, louder this time, clearly enjoying the exchange. One of these days, old man. One of these days. Alex says nothing through it all. He walks to his assigned seat with calm composure, drawing more than a few glances, but no open commentary this time. He's already left an impression. Moments later, a shift passes through the room again. Subtle, but noticeable. A ripple in the air. Mana coils tightly, reverently. The doors open again. Vareth enters, his towering presence casting long shadows across the polished floor. Behind him, her stride fluid and silent, comes Sphyra. She is not like the others. Her form is sleek, serpentine in movement, with chitin armor laced in silver patterns that shimmer faintly as she walks. Her pale skin contrasts against the deep black of her monstrous limbs, 3 fingers each, ending in claws that click softly with every step. A long, bladed tail coils gently behind her, curling and uncurling with a patient rhythm. As the two approach, the room falls completely silent. Vareth stops at the head of the table, resting both hands on the dark surface. His gaze sweeps across the gathered commanders, assessing, weighing. When he speaks, his voice is low but carries an edge that cuts through the silence. This time, I bring bad news. No one speaks. Even Brocker straightens, the amusement gone from his face. Vareth's gaze darkens. General Madoran, the one I chose to send to that continent, is dead. A wave of shock slams through the chamber. The silence that follows is thick, suffocating. Lathar leans forward slightly, stunned. Dead? Sir Madoran is dead. Someone exhales sharply across the room. A younger commander mutters under his breath. That's not possible, he's tier 6. Svyra steps forward, her voice crisp, controlled. I confirmed it myself. We lost all contact. Brocker's brows furrow. What the hell could kill a tier 6? It's been centuries. 500 years, Vareth says grimly. Since a tier 6 died in open combat on our soil. We all know what that means. Madoran wasn't careless. He was experienced, brutal when needed. If something took him down, it wasn't chance. It was strength. One of the commanders, a veteran with a bronze pauldron shaped like a lion's maw, speaks up, disbelief etched into every word. But how? That continent, the one with the 3 kingdoms, they don't have anyone above tier 5, right? They're country bumpkins compared to us. Vareth's jaw tightens, his fingers curling slightly against the table. That's what we all assumed. Clearly, we were wrong. He pauses, then adds coldly. After this meeting, I will go to that human king myself. I want answers. Personally. Svyra steps up beside him, her voice smooth but laced with steel. My lord, if I may, Astrum is likely already there. His subordinate died too. He won't ignore this. Vareth's brow furrows. It's my lapse of judgment. I didn't think the human king's enemy would have someone capable of killing a tier 6. That's on me. Another commander shakes his head firmly. With all due respect, my lord, it's not your fault. Madoran's death can't go unanswered. We should avenge him immediately. Vareth nods once, decisively. We will. Me and Svyra will go there after this meeting. He looks around the room. I want preparations ready. We will demand that the king opens the relic. A stir goes through the chamber. Whispers, uncertain glances. The relic. Everyone knows what it is. Or at least what it's supposed to be. A remnant of a tier 7 powerhouse, buried beneath the ruins on that continent. Untouched, sealed, dangerous. Alex, meanwhile, sits quietly, his expression unreadable. But inside, his thoughts are sharp. So that's what he wants, not justice, not vengeance. But the relic. He leans back slightly, eyes half-lidded. Madoran dies, and all he sees is opportunity. Typical. Shortly after, the meeting comes to an end. The commanders begin to file out, their voices low, grim with tension. Alex rises from his seat and makes his way toward Ladhar, who's lingering near one of the pillars, arms crossed, eyes distant. Alex stops beside him and speaks quietly, but firmly. Ladhar, I need you to gather our people. Only tier 4 combatants. No one lower. Lathar's brow rises. Just tier 4s. Yes, Alex says. No one else. Keep it small. I have something I need to take care of alone. Ladhar exhales through his nose, but doesn't argue. Not this time. So you're heading off again, he says, not bothering to mask the resignation in his tone. In the capital city of the Valgros kingdom, storm clouds roll silently above the towering spires. The sun filters weakly through them, casting pale light across the upper courtyard where the portal stands, pulsing faintly with unstable mana. King Rewalt stands at its edge, hands clasped behind his back, his crown resting heavy on his brow. Beside him, Prince Asdri gazes at the shimmering gateway with a tension that tightens his jaw. I never thought, Rewalt murmurs, eyes locked on the arcane frame, that our enemy would be capable of killing 2 tier 6 monsters. Asdri glances at his father, brows furrowed. Father, are you sure our enemy is even native to this continent? Rewalt doesn't answer immediately. His gaze lingers on the portal a moment longer before he sighs. That, he says quietly, I don't know anymore. Then Rewalt adds, his voice hardening, but we've got a new problem. Asdri turns to him fully. The leaders of the monsters? Rewalt nods grimly. The Lord of Gresvin called Astrum. From what I've gathered, he's the current ruler of their continent. And the other one Vareth, the one who sent Madoran. He's the leader of a rebel faction trying to overthrow Astrum's tyranny. And both are very powerful tier 6. Asdri says, more a statement than a question. Asdri's hand tightens around the hilt of his sword. If that monster Astrum gets here first. Rewalt cuts in sharply. We pray he doesn't. Silence falls between them again. The hum of the portal the only sound. We need to speak to Vareth, Rewalt says at last. If there's a side to choose in their war, we choose the one less likely to burn our world. Asdri nods. Then let's just hope Vareth gets here before Astrum does. Shortly after, the portal hums. Its shimmer growing brighter, warping the air around it with arcs of unstable mana. A low pressure rolls out from its center like the calm before a storm. 3 figures emerge from the light. The first steps forward with regal, unshakable poise. Astrum. His blue eyes sweep the courtyard with quiet menace. Broad-shouldered, draped in robes of dark silver etched with crimson veins of mana. He exudes not just power, but the sense that power itself bends around him. Flanking him are his 2 subordinates. Karwal and Tandu are now fully healed. Rewalt straightens the moment they arrive. His voice is steady, even courteous, but clipped at the edges. Welcome, Lord Astrum. Astrum's eyes land on Rewalt, unblinking. King Rewalt, he replies, his tone eerily calm. We see each other again. I assume you already know why I'm here. Asdri stands still beside his father, but inside, his heart races. He's seen his fair share of tier SIXS on the main continent. Some arrogant, some noble, some cruel. But this is something else. Astrum doesn't feel like a tier 6. He feels like a calamity disguised in flesh. His aura presses down like a mountain, heavy and deliberate. The lesser tier SIXS he's met couldn't compare. This monster, Asdri thinks, has to be at least level 680. Maybe even 690. Even among the central powers, someone like Astrum wouldn't be obscure. He wouldn't be just another tier 6. He would be a name people whisper about before wars are decided. Astrum speaks again, his gaze never leaving Rewalt. I lost one of my own, and not just anyone. Grespin, a loyal servant who's followed me since the Unification Wars. Rewalt's shoulders tighten, but he doesn't lower his head. It's my fault, he says at last, voice quiet but clear. Who would have thought that my enemy was this strong? Astrum watches him in silence for a moment, then steps forward. Only a single step, but it feels like the entire courtyard shrinks around him. Rewalt continues, trying to keep his composure. I'm also at a loss. If they are this powerful, why haven't they already wiped us out in one clean strike? Chapter 186. A crypt of a tier 7 powerhouse? Astrum's expression doesn't change. His voice, when it comes, is like stone dragged across glass. Cold, smooth, and final. I don't care about that. The words cut the air in half. I don't care why they haven't crushed you yet. What I care about, Astrum says, his gaze narrowing, is how you intend to compensate me. Because if you don't, he pauses. The weight of his presence increases, not by a flare of power, not by any show of force, just by sheer existence. Then I will destroy your kingdom before your enemy even has the chance. He says it so simply, as if discussing the weather. Asdri can't breathe. Astrum hasn't released his aura, hasn't summoned a single spark of mana, and yet, Asdri feels like his soul is being flayed open. His vision flickers. For a split second he sees his own death. Then another, and another. He gasps, choking down air like he's resurfaced from drowning. What was that?
No aura.
No spell, no pressure, and yet it felt like dying. Again and again. Rewalt moves quickly, stepping between Astrum and his son with an item shining in his hand, shielding him with his body. Astrum tilts his head, just slightly. His expression remains unchanged, but the silence that follows is suffocating. Rewalt clenches his jaw, forcing the words out. I will open the relic. The moment he says it, the air shifts. That should be enough, Rewalt continues, each syllable dragging like stone. To compensate you, and Varith. Astrum's eyes narrow, a flicker of something. Interest, perhaps, dancing behind them. Then he turns, as if the matter is already settled. Good, he says. Then I'll return tomorrow. He takes a step toward the portal, when suddenly, it roars to life again. Mana flares violently, the runes carved around the arch pulsing in wild succession. The air thickens. Static hums across the stone floor, and then, another flash of light. Two figures emerge from the vortex. The first is tall, imposing, wreathed in a cloak of matte black fur and iron-gray armor that hums with restrained power, Varith. Beside him glides a form far more fluid, Spira, her tail curling slowly behind her as she steps through the portal like a blade drawn from its sheath. Rewalt's blood runs cold. Asdri stiffens, eyes darting from one to the other. The two monsters are here, together. Astrum turns slowly, his robe whispering against the marble as he faces the new arrivals. There's no greeting.
No acknowledgement.
Only raw, frigid stillness. Varith steps forward, his tone hard as steel. So, you arrived first. Astrum's lips curl into a faint smile. Not warm, never warm. Just that sharp, cold curve that always dances on the edge of mockery. It's been a long time, Varith, he says, voice smooth but heavy with memory. The last time we fought, neither of us walked away with the upper hand. His eyes flash with something darker, hunger, challenge. But after exploring it, things might be different. Varith lets out a low laugh. Not forced, not loud, just enough to cut through the air like a crack in ice. You're acting like the treasure is already in your hands, he says coolly, folding his arms. But you're not the only one with ambition, Astrum. Astrum's smirk deepens, but he doesn't rise to the bait. Instead, he turns his back without a word, walking toward the portal once more. Spira eyes him carefully, but says nothing. Varith doesn't stop him either. The moment Astrum vanishes into the portal's light, the atmosphere shifts, less tense, but no less dangerous. King Rewalt takes a breath, finally speaking again. Lord Varith, he begins carefully. I'm sorry for your loss. Madoran was. But Varith cuts him off with a simple raise of his hand. I did not come for apologies, human king, he says. I came to confirm it myself. His voice, while far calmer than Astrum's, still holds weight, controlled, but undeniably powerful. Varith said, I did not expect my subordinate to fall, at least not on this continent. Rewalt glances toward Asdri, then back to Vareth. We didn't expect it either, which is why, I've decided, the thing I promised will be opened. Tomorrow. That gets Svira's attention. Her eyes narrow and sharp. Vareth studies the king for a long moment. Then he nods once. Good. Without another word, he turns.
No threats. No demands.
Just silence and the cold weight of restrained violence. Svira follows, her gaze briefly flicking over Asdri. Just enough to make the prince stiffen again. Then the two of them vanish back through the portal. As soon as the portal dims and the oppressive presence of the two monsters fades, both Rewalt and Asdri let out a long, heavy breath. They're still standing. Asdri wipes the sweat from his brow, even though the air isn't hot. His hands are trembling, and his mouth is dry. We survived, he mutters, almost in disbelief. Gods. We actually survived that. Rewalt doesn't speak right away. He just looks at the now quiet portal, his face carved from stone. But when he finally turns to his son, there's a tightness in his jaw, a weight that hasn't lifted. Asdri looks over at him, eyes still wide. Father, I knew the relic was important, but I didn't know it was this important. What even is it? Rewalt's gaze grows distant. He lowers his voice, as if the truth itself is too old to be spoken loudly. Son, he says, even I don't know everything about it. What little I do know came from your grandfather. He turns, slowly walking toward the edge of the courtyard. Asdri follows. Rewalt continues, voice low and grim. It's not a relic but a crypt, and it's older than our kingdom, older than our line. Long ago, before the Valgros kingdom existed, our clan weren't rulers. We were guardians, keepers of something buried, something ancient. Asdri's brow furrows. Guardians. Rewalt nods. Yes, but then one of our ancestors decided to build a kingdom on top of it. Maybe out of ambition, maybe to keep others from finding it. Who knows? All that knowledge is fragmented now, lost to time. He pauses. The last king said, it might be the remains of a tier 7, a true powerhouse, one who stood at the peak of this world before even the central powers rose. Asdri stops walking. His heart slams against his ribs. A tier 7? He echoes, barely able to breathe the words. He's traveled the main continent. He's seen legends in motion. Tier 5s who bend fire like silk, tiers XS who walk like kings among men. But a tier 7? He feels a chill snake down his spine. If the central continent finds out, he says slowly, eyes wide, about what we're sitting on, there'll be no stopping them. Rewalt looks grim. They won't just come for it. They'll come for us. For every last piece of history, of blood. Asdri turns toward the still glowing runes. The next day arrives like a thundercloud holding back its storm. In Emberclaw's main base buzzes with quiet tension. Soldiers move with sharp discipline, voices clipped, eyes scanning every shadow. The scent of metal, leather, and mana hangs heavy in the air. Alex stands near the central platform, arms crossed behind his back, his gaze calm but razor-sharp. Beside him are the 3 tier 5 monsters who had once fought him in the woods, now bound by loyalty or something close enough. Behind them, another 15 tier 4 monsters form ranks, each one carrying the weight of their power like coiled steel. Lathar stands nearby, giving last-minute checks to their formation. They're ready, he says simply, glancing at Alex. The other 13 commanders have also arrived, each flanked by their own elite units. Some have brought knights wreathed in elemental auras. Others are accompanied by beastkin or sorcerers cloaked in tiered artifacts. Every faction has sent their best. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut. Alex stands unmoving at the center, his presence steady amid the quiet murmurs of the commanders and the shifting restlessness of the monsters behind him. His eyes scan the horizon. Though calm on the surface, there's an edge to him now, a readiness. Yet none of them speak the obvious. They are waiting for him, for Vareth. And when the first tremor rolls through the floor, subtle, like the heartbeat of the earth itself, everyone turns as one. The portal at the far end of the base hums to life. Not violently, not with drama, but with a deep, cold pulse that settles into their bones. Then, without sound, Vareth steps through. Behind him walks Svira, eyes gleaming like a serpent's, her tail flicking once before settling still. But her presence barely registers compared to the one at her front. As Vareth steps fully into the light, the entire assembly reacts. The 13 commanders' units drop to one knee. The commanders and Lathar lower themselves slightly, a fist over their hearts. Alex follows suit. Vareth acknowledges the gesture with a slight tilt of his head. No pride, no arrogance. Just silent authority. Svira remains quiet beside him, gaze drifting over the assembled forces like a blade searching for a weakness. Then Vareth speaks, his voice cutting clean through the heavy silence. I won't waste any more time. The words fall like a gavel. Final. Unyielding. The exploration. He continues, stepping forward so that the gathered commanders and elites can hear clearly. As you all already know, will fall to you. His eyes sweep across the assembled warriors. Tier 4s, Tier 5s. Each one stands a little straighter beneath that gaze. Tyr-Sixx like me can't go in. The seals won't allow it. His voice lowers slightly, becoming more grave. So it's up to you. No rousing speech. No promises. Just the stark truth. Do your best. And don't let Astrum win this war. Chapter 187. Entering the crypt. There's a beat of silence after Varith's words. Long enough for the weight of them to settle. Then Brokkr steps forward. His eyes burn with resolve as he raises his voice so it carries across the entire formation. We will not fail. The commanders straighten. The monsters behind him let out low, rising growls. Barely restrained energy trembling just under the surface. One of the captains, a flame-crowned beastkin, roars. We'll carve our way through whatever waits inside. A knight slams a gauntlet to his chest. For the future of this land. For the fallen, someone else shouts. For vengeance. Then, in perfect unison, every voice rises like thunder crashing across the mountains. We will win, and free this land from Astrum's tyranny. The ground itself seems to respond. Mana pulsing beneath their feet. The portal surges behind Varith, its light deepening to a storm-lit glow. Like it, too, recognizes the weight of what's coming. Varith gives a single, sharp nod. Then let's go. The moment Varith steps into the portal, the tension doesn't lessen. It shifts, like coals pressed tighter under weight, not cooled. Svyra follows silently behind him, her tail trailing a serpentine path across the stone floor. And then, the rest begin to move. One by one, the commanders signal their squads. Alex turns, locking eyes with Lathar, who gives a crisp nod. No words are needed. Then, light, the portal flares, swallowing the vanguard whole. And when the world reforms, they stand in silence on the other side. The air here is different, heavier, stale with age and something else, something buried. The floor beneath their boots is smooth obsidian. The chamber is vast, circular, and cold. But what truly halts them are the ones waiting. Across the chamber, just beyond the far curve of the ancient hall, Astrum's forces are already assembled. Tier 4 and 5 elites in jagged armor, spellcasters swathed in blood-red runes, beastkin with gleaming, unnatural eyes, and at the front stands Astrum, unmoving, his presence like a knife slid between the ribs of the world. Tension erupts instantly, like two clouds of toxic gas meeting in the air, their fumes ready to ignite at the faintest spark. The two armies don't charge. Not yet, but it wouldn't take much. One step, one breath, one insult. Rewalt steps through the final archway from the hidden portal chamber, flanked tightly by Asdri and two royal guards. The moment he sees both forces, Astrum's and Varith's, facing each other in that vast chamber, something cold twists in his gut. Gods. They look like they're seconds away from killing each other. Asdri leans in quietly, voice low. Father. They are hungry for each other's throats. King Rewalt watches from the edge of the chamber, his breath shallow, chest tight. Asdri stands close behind him, his fingers flexing near the hilt of his blade even though he knows he can't do anything if a battle erupts. The two armies stare each other down, silent as death. Rewalt swallows hard. Every instinct screams that this was a mistake, that asking for help from Varith and Astrum was a gamble no sane ruler should have made. And now they're here, in his kingdom, in his crypt. He feels it, the raw power, the hunger for battle humming beneath the skin of these monsters, like wolves in a pen made of paper. Astrum's forces stand like a tide waiting to crash. Varith's side, steady as carved stone, no less lethal. One provocation, one step too close, and the entire capital city could become a graveyard. Rewalt finally breaks the silence. Follow me, he says low but firm. Both armies remain still, but two figures move, one from each side. Astrum lifts a hand without looking, and the closest of his elite nods, signaling his troops to follow but not engage. Varith mirrors the action, his expression unreadable as he steps forward alongside Rewalt. Asdri follows behind, tension still clinging to his bones. They walk slowly, Rewalt leading them past rune-etched pillars and ancient, crumbling statues, deeper into the crypt. The air grows colder, denser. Power, ancient and unmoving, coils through the stone like vines in a long-dead garden. Neither Astrum nor Varith speak as they walk side by side, their silence louder than war drums. Finally, they reach it. A gate, not made of metal, but a special white stone, covered in layered seals and sunken glyphs that pulse faintly with forgotten mana. It radiates pressure, not aggressive, but watchful, waiting. Rewalt stops before it. His voice is quiet. This is it. He reaches into his cloak and pulls out a pendant, circular, etched with the same glyphs that glow along the gate. With a whisper of a word, the pendant rises in his palm, floating into the air. The glyphs respond. A hum fills the crypt, low and bone-deep. Then the gate begins to shift. The runes shiver. Locking mechanisms older than the kingdom itself begin to turn. And then, a crack splits the air, like the first breath of a tomb that hasn't opened in centuries. A gust of cold, dry air spills out. Dust swirls.
Mana pulses.
But beyond the gate, is only darkness. A huge wave of aura sweeps through the group like a tidal force made of pressure and presence. Even Vareth and Astrum, both brushing the peak of Tier 6, pause, their expressions tightening under the weight of it. Astrum breaks the silence with a short, sharp laugh. There it is. This is no trick. It's a real tomb. A Tier 7's resting place. Vareth's eyes gleam, but he reins in his excitement with a breath, his voice low and even. Finally, this might be worth it. The others are visibly affected, stiffening, bracing, exchanging uncertain glances. But Alex, he doesn't flinch. His gaze scans the shifting mana with measured calm. He crosses his arms and exhales through his nose, unimpressed. Alex thought, the aura's dense, sure, but not overwhelming. The difference is stark. Rewalt lets the silence stretch for a breath longer, then speaks, his voice firm but weary. Just like I said, only those at Tier 5 or below can enter. He continues, and once you pass through, you'll be teleported to a random location inside. No way to predict it, no way to control it. Lathar blinks, then frowns. Then what's the point of us gathering like this? He turns to Alex, brows raised, voice edged with disbelief. We can't coordinate, can't plan. Astrum's voice cuts in cool and sharp. So we can't enter in squads? Rewalt shakes his head. Not unless you're very lucky. That's all I know. This tomb hasn't been opened in my lifetime. Everything I've told you comes from the records of the kings before me. There's a short pause. Then, as if on cue, both Vareth and Astrum turn to their forces at once. Once you're inside, Vareth says, his tone commanding, locate your comrades immediately. Don't waste time. Prioritize regrouping. Astrum's gaze sweeps over his people, cold and cutting. Survive the drop, then find your own. Avoid fighting until you're at full strength. Lathar glances at Alex again, quieter this time. We'll be scattered. Alex nods once. That's fine. Our people are full of elites. They'll manage. A moment of tense quiet settles once more, the kind that comes before a storm. Rewalt steps back from the gate, the glyphs still glowing softly behind him. It's open, he says simply. Astrum turns to his assembled troops with a sharp wave of his hand. You're first. Move. No hesitation. His elite step forward in near-perfect synchronization. Blood-red cloaks sweep the floor. Blades, staffs, and beast forms shift and tense as the first of them approaches the gate. Karwal and Tandu, standing just behind Astrum, remain still. Karwal's voice is quiet, almost regretful. I would have liked to see what's inside. Then, without another word, the first of Astrum's forces crosses the threshold. The portal flares, light swallowing them whole, and they vanish into the tomb. Vareth watches without expression. His arms are folded, his tail still. Svira stands beside him, silent and unmoving, though her eyes track each soldier vanishing into the light. When the last of Astrum's troops disappear, Vareth finally speaks, his voice low. Let them go first. Doesn't matter. He glances toward his own commanders. Our time's the same once we're inside. He turns, nodding once. A subtle command. Vareth's force begins to move. They move like a storm of different shapes. Monsters and warriors and beings of strange anatomy, but all with the same deadly focus. The portal devours them one by one. Soon only one group remains. Alex and his people. Lathar exhales slowly. Guess it's our turn. Alex glances around at his squad crouched like a coiled blade. Remember, Alex says, this isn't a war zone. Not yet. Find each other. Don't waste energy fighting every enemy you see. Lathar nods, expression grim but ready. The others murmur quiet affirmations. No fear, just anticipation. Then Alex steps forward. He doesn't look back. The moment his foot crosses the threshold, the portal pulses. Light bends, warps, then everything is gone. A rush of cold. A strange pressure pulling in all directions. Then silence. When Alex opens his eyes, he's somewhere else. He stands alone on a broad, cracked stone plain. The sky above is murky, deep gray and faintly shimmering, like fog over polished glass. Far above, there's a ceiling miles up, maybe more, but still visible. It curves like a dome, faintly lit by unknown sources. Ha! He turns slowly in place. The landscape stretches outward, impossibly vast. Strange structures dot the horizon, some broken, some half-buried. There's grass in patches, but it's dark and fibrous, like it grew in shadow. Obsidian pillars rise from the ground in crooked patterns, humming faintly with power. Feels more like a sealed world than a tomb. Alex mutters to himself. He narrows his eyes, testing the flow of mana. Then he tried to fly. Chapter 188. Found a tomb. Instead of soaring upward, his boots barely clear the ground. The air feels thick like flying through syrup and gravity yanks him back down. He lands with a sharp thud. TCH. He flexes his legs, adjusting. Restrictions. He extends his senses. It's subtle, but he can feel it. A thin net of spatial suppression layered across the air, designed to keep them grounded, to keep them vulnerable. Alex places 2 fingers in the air. A shimmer of transparent blue panel emerges. His inventory appears, displaying all his items. He could tear the restriction apart in seconds. But he doesn't. No need, he murmurs, letting his hand fall. Instead, he exhales, closing his eyes for a moment. The air smells faintly of dust, old stone, and mana. Not hostile. Not yet. He opens them again and begins walking. Alex walks in silence, boots tapping softly against the cracked stone. Each step echoes faintly in the open space, swallowed quickly by the vastness around him. He keeps his senses sharp, scanning the surroundings as he moves. The place is unnaturally large, far too large. This place is huge, ridiculously huge, he mutters under his breath. No Tier 7 could have built this alone, not even with a century of effort. There's no wind, no sound but his own movements. Even mana flows in strange patterns here, sluggish but dense, like it's resisting him, coiled tight into the bones of the land. Alex narrows his eyes. It feels artificial, but alive. He pauses, turning slightly. Something flickers at the edge of his vision. Far ahead, between two crooked obsidian pillars, a shape moves, slow, deliberate. Alex crouches slightly, his eyes narrowing. The shape resolves into something humanoid but off, its posture rigid, movements too smooth. Then it steps into clearer view. It's a monster, humanoid in form, covered in dark crimson armor etched with sharp runes. Its eyes glow a faint, eerie green.
No emotion. No breath.
Alex tilts his head slightly. An ordinary soldier from Astrum's side? The soldier stops again, scanning the area. Alex doesn't rush. He watches, quietly weighing the situation. Then, with a thought, he activates a skill. Shadow Veil. The air ripples around him, and Alex's form fades, his presence vanishing completely. No sound, no scent, no energy signature. Even mana has trouble recognizing him now. The soldier doesn't notice. Instead, it reaches into a compartment on its hip and retrieves a small, oval-shaped item. A dull metallic stone with runes pulsing faintly along its surface. Then the item trembles. A moment later, it floats up from the soldier's hand and begins to drift slowly toward the east, pulsing with brighter light. The soldier watches it for a second, then begins to follow. Alex raises an eyebrow. A locator? That's clever. He steps into motion, completely silent beneath the effects of Shadow Veil, trailing the soldier from a safe distance. They came ready. That must be a directional marker to help their squads regroup. His eyes follow the device with interest, which means wherever it's going, there'll be more of them. His lips curl into a slight grin. Good. Let's tail this guy, see where it leads. He moves effortlessly through the uneven terrain, never disturbing a single pebble. The soldier never looks back. The path ahead begins to shift. Larger structures loom in the mist, old and half-submerged. Alex narrows his eyes, senses stretching forward as the pulse of the locator speeds up slightly, its runes now blinking rapidly. Something's close. Suddenly, the quiet is shattered. From the foggy distance, rapid footsteps pound against the stone. Another figure in the same dark crimson armor bursts into view. Running full sprint, armor scratched, movements frantic. Run! The second soldier shouts, his voice hoarse and raw. They're coming. Beasts. Dozens of them. The first soldier stiffens, turning sharply. What? I said run. They're... The second soldier skids to a stop beside him, panting. They're tracking my mana. They're smart. The locator stone pulses faster. A guttural snarl rolls through the air. Then another. And another. Alex halts. Shadows begin to shift in the mists beyond. Low forms, crawling, slinking, stalking. The first soldier curses, stepping back. You idiot. You brought them to me? What the hell was I supposed to do, die alone? The second snaps, drawing a short-bladed weapon. Shut up and help me fight. They both tense, weapons raised. But it's too late. Figures emerge from every angle, sleek beasts with elongated limbs and bone-like protrusions along their backs and jaws. Pale skin slick with moisture. Eyes that glow faintly violet. One of them snarls, saliva dripping from jagged teeth. Then another growls behind the soldiers, closer than expected. The two warriors go back to back instinctively, breathing heavy. They're circling us. The second mutters. No gaps. They're coordinating. The first growls. This isn't some wild pack. Dozens of the creatures close in, Tier 4 like the soldiers, equal in strength. But numbers? Unfairly tilted. The beasts don't wait for a signal. They pounce. The clash is brutal and fast. Steel meets claw, parries crash against snapping jaws, and blood sprays across stone. The soldiers fight well, disciplined, experienced. For a moment it looks like they might hold. But they don't. There are simply too many. One soldier is taken from the side, dragged down by three beasts tearing at his armor, biting through the gaps with coordinated viciousness. He screams once. The other soldier roars, trying to reach him, but a leaping beast tackles him mid-stride. He goes down, blade slipping from his grip. Fangs sink into his throat before he can scream. The air goes still again. The growls fade one by one. The beasts drag the corpses into the mist, limbs trailing, armor scraping against stone. Then they vanish, slipping back into the fog like ghosts. Only blood remains. Alex stands still, watching. No reaction, no movement, just quiet eyes following the last sliver of motion until even the dragging fades. Quite efficient, he mutters. He steps forward, shadow veil still active, soundless. The locator stone lies on the ground. Its light dim now, runes flickering erratically. Alex crouches, picking it up between two fingers. The surface is warm. He studies the pulsing runes, turning the stone over in his hand. Let's see if I can use this thing. With a flick of his finger, he channels a sliver of mana into it. The stone vibrates faintly. Then a translucent screen blinks to life in front of him, floating just above the stone's surface. Access denied. This item is restricted to authorized personnel of the Astrum Dominion. Unauthorized use will trigger a failsafe. Alex blinks once, then sighs. Well, that's annoying. He straightens, raising his hand lazily to the air. His inventory window flickers open, a faint grid of glowing icons arranged across a translucent panel. Let's see. Where did I put you? He mutters, scrolling through rows of categorized tools and consumables. Ah, there. He taps a small, star-shaped item nestled between a handful of utility scrolls and a half-spent crystal. A tiny, metallic gear-like trinket with blue threads pulsing along its edge. Item. Restriction Nullifier, Tier 2. Removes class, bloodline, and allegiance locks from Tier 1 to 2 items. Perfect. He selects it. The item appears in his hand instantly, cold and humming with soft mana. Alex holds both the locator and the nullifier side by side, then presses them together. The nullifier dissolves into threads of light that spiral around the locator stone, seeping into its runes. A faint click echoes through the air. Then silence. The screen vanishes. The locator's glow steadies. Alex raises an eyebrow, smirking. Well, that was easy. He tosses the now unlocked locator gently in the air and catches it. Let's see what you were really pointing at. He channels mana into it again. This time, the stone responds instantly. A narrow beam of light bursts from its core, pointing straight into the distance, toward the northeast. Alex follows the stone through the mist-cloaked ruins. The locator hums faintly, its light unwavering now. Sharp and steady like an arrow locked on its target. Minutes pass. Then he sees them. Figures in the distance. Dozens armored and armed. Crimson-etched armor glinting faintly beneath the strange light. They stand in a loose formation before a large ancient structure half swallowed by the earth. A building, no, a tomb. Massive stone doors sealed shut, decorated in weather-worn reliefs of battles long past. The air around it pulses subtly with pressure, old magic, dormant but dangerous. He shifts his focus toward the front of the group. One figure stands apart, taller, broader, his aura alone thick enough to make the air buzz. Even from this distance, Alex can feel it pressing outward. Level 578. He murmurs. Tier 5. That must be the commander. He exhales quietly. If I use a Tier 5 skill, he'll sense it instantly. Instead, Alex flicks 2 fingers upward. The inventory reappears in the air. He scrolls with a thought, eyes flicking through rows until he finds what he's looking for. A soft gray veil-shaped charm, its surface marked with a spiral sigil. Item. Ghost Veil Shard. Grants true invisibility to all senses for 3 hours. No aura, no sound. Even Tier 6 perception won't pierce it, unless they're actively looking. He taps it. The item vanishes in a glimmer of blue light, and so does he. Alex looks down at himself. Nothing. No shadow, no scent, no pressure. Let's get closer. He moves forward in complete silence, stepping from stone to stone with eerie grace. No wind stirs. The soldiers ahead remain unaware, their weapons idle but ready, eyes scanning the fog. One soldier kneels beside the tomb's entrance, running a scanner over the seals. Another paces near the side, speaking into a silent comlink. Alex creeps closer. The commander stands with arms crossed, helmet retracted to reveal a sharp, angular face marked by old scars. His expression is unreadable, but his eyes never stop moving, sweeping across the horizon, wary. Chapter 189. A coffin inside. The commander scowls, impatience edging his voice. You still can't open that thing? You've been at it for 30 minutes now, he says, glaring at the mage crouched by the tomb's seal. Are you sure you can even open it? The mage flinches slightly but doesn't stop working. His hands continue moving, etching glowing lines along the carved runes with practiced precision. I'm sorry, sir. The mage says quickly, voice tight with pressure. I'm close. Just a bit more. Alex watches from less than 5 meters away, perfectly invisible, not even the commander's sharp eyes catching a flicker of his presence. Careful, Alex thinks, silent amusement touching his lips. You're sweating mana. The seal begins to pulse. A low tremor hums through the ground, faint but growing stronger. Then, thunk. With a deep groan, the massive stone doors shudder and part down the middle, ancient gears grinding as they pull open just enough to reveal a narrow stairway plunging into darkness. The soldiers tense. Weapons rise. The commander raises a hand, silent signal. Form up, he orders quietly. 2 lines, shields front, mage support behind. Alex drifts in with them as they move. The soldiers enter cautiously, boots echoing on the stairs. None of them feel the slight ripple in the air as he passes through, silent as shadow. They descend slowly. The stairway goes deep, far deeper than expected. The air grows colder, denser. Magic coils through the stone like veins. Old, heavy, dormant. Then the stairs end. They step into a vast underground chamber. The air shifts. It's cold, unnaturally so. The walls are smooth black stone, etched with faded sigils that faintly glow as the soldiers pass. The ceiling arches high above, and at the center of it all, clearing, perfectly circular, unblemished. And in the middle of that clearing lies a single, massive coffin, obsidian and gold, embedded into the floor like it was grown there rather than placed. Dust doesn't touch it. The air around it feels thick, like it's pressing against time itself. Next to the coffin are items arranged in a ceremonial pattern. Artifacts, weapons, jewels, tomes, each one humming faintly with power. Their colors shimmer under the dim magical glow of the chamber's sconces. The soldier's breath catches. By the heavens! One whispers. Is that a Tier 4 sword? There are so many of them. The mage steps forward, his eyes wide. That staff, it's still charged. And that ring, look at the enchantment lines. That's ancient craftsmanship. Their gazes lock onto the treasures like moths to flame. Greed begins to bloom in their eyes, subtle at first, then more visible as they step closer, instinctively reaching for favored pieces. Even the commander's expression shifts slightly, one brow twitching upward at the sheer rarity displayed. Do not touch anything until I say so, he warns, his voice like iron. We don't know what kind of bindings or wards are still active. The soldiers halt, but reluctantly. Their eyes don't leave the relics. Alex stands just behind them, unseen, unmoving. To them, it's a vault of priceless treasures and lost power. To him, trash. Then he tilts his head slightly, eyes narrowing on the coffin. That is different. A quiet pulse of mana hums from beneath it, deep, subtle, not like the scattered relics tossed around it. This, whatever it is, was built to last. And guarded. Wards wrap around the edges, barely visible unless you know what to look for. Woven like vines, but alive, reacting to presence, breath, movement. The commander gestures with 2 fingers, sharp and deliberate. Advance. Form a perimeter around the coffin. Mages, start analysis on the containment runes. Don't waste time. The soldiers start moving, splitting off into groups, boots echoing against the cold floor as they spread out. Weapons drawn, eyes flicking between the relics and the coffin. The commander, meanwhile, stays near the rear, arms crossed behind his back. Alex watches him with a faint smirk. Of course, send the grunts ahead, stay behind where it's safe. Sly bastard. Then, click, a low, mechanical shift echoes through the chamber. Everyone freezes. Then comes the rumble. The stone floor trembles beneath their feet. Dust trickles down from the ceiling. With a loud grind, the wall on the far side of the chamber slides open. Ancient stone splitting like the lid of a maw. From the shadows beyond, something moves. Heavy, slow, massive. Then it steps into the light. A beast, towering and twisted, horned and plated in chitinous armor the color of dried blood. Its eyes glow a deep, steady crimson. Its breath steams in the cold air. Clawed hands drag along the stone, and its presence crashes through the chamber like a wave. Tier 5. And not just any Tier 5. Peak. Every soldier tenses, magic crackling to life, weapons shifting in sweaty hands. One of them stammers. Weapons up. That thing. What is that? Another backs up a step. We are gonna die here. Shut up. The commander snaps, stepping forward now, eyes locked on the creature. His aura flares slightly, a burning red that pushes back the cold. Get a grip, you idiots. It's just a peak Tier 5. I'm also almost at peak Tier 5. We can kill it. The soldiers still look nervous, but his voice cuts through the panic like steel.
Formation.
Shields front. Casters, prep your buffs. Melee, don't engage until I say. The soldiers snap to motion, trained reflexes overriding fear. Circles form, runes activate, and mana surges into the air. The beast lowers its head, growling deep, its breath shaking the walls. Alex doesn't move. He watches from the side, still cloaked in true invisibility, arms casually folded. Let's see if your almost peak means anything. He thinks, eyes gleaming faintly in the dark. The beast roars, and the Real fight begins. The clash is instant and brutal. The beast moves like a storm, too fast for its size, smashing into the front lines with terrifying weight. Shields splinter, screams erupt, spells lash the air, slamming into its armor, but most fizzle or deflect, scattering against its hide like sparks on stone. Alex watches like watching a movie. 2 soldiers are torn apart in seconds. One crushed beneath a clawed foot, the other hurled across the chamber, bones cracking against the wall. The commander shouts orders, blade drawn. golden aura flaring brighter now, illuminating the dark. Focus fire. Keep formation. Don't scatter. Damn it. 3 mages try to trap the beast in a slowing hex, their incantations overlapping, but it breaks the spell with a roar and a stomp, disrupting the circle and incinerating one of them in a burst of raw mana backlash. The gap between them is too wide. Alex can see it, obvious. The commander fights well, better than most. But he's not at the peak. Not truly. His strikes are sharp, but not enough to seriously injure a tier 5 beast. His movements efficient but still reactive. And worse, the soldiers can't keep up. They die fast, one after another. After some time, there are none left. Only the commander remains, armor dented, one arm hanging useless, blood soaking his left side. He pants heavily, chest heaving with each breath, blade tip trembling as it stays raised. The beast lies dead. Its body slumps to the side, the last of its breath escaping in a long, rattling exhale. But even in death, it looks undefeated. The commander sways, drops to one knee, gritting his teeth as he plants the sword into the ground to stay upright. His aura flickers, barely holding. Cuts line his face, one eye swollen shut. Then, a soft clap, slow, measured, coming from the shadows behind him. The commander's head jerks up, wild eyes searching. Who's there? Alex lets the invisibility drop. He stands just beyond the dying torchlight, arms folded, eyes cool. No blood.
No dust.
Not even sweat. Well fought, Alex says, stepping forward, his voice calm and almost bored, though and not impressive. The commander's gaze locks on him, disbelief and fury mixing in his expression. You, who are you? The commander's eye twitches. Then his gaze drops, locks onto the badge clipped to Alex's belt. His face twists into a sneer. Emberclaw. He spits, half a laugh slipping from his bloodied lips. Of course, should have known. He coughs hard, blood spattering onto the stone. And is this how the commanders of Emberclaw operate now? Hiding in the shadows while others die doing your work? What a cowardly move. Alex raises a brow. A faint smirk plays at the corner of his lips. Cowardly? He echoes, voice smooth. Please, don't pretend you wouldn't have done the same if the roles were reversed. He steps closer, slow and deliberate. His boots make no sound on the cold stone. There's no such thing as cowardice in war. Only survival, victory, efficiency. I don't see honor on the battlefield. Just results. The commander grits his teeth, trying to rise, but his knee buckles. His sword clatters to the ground. Damn you, he snarls. You think you're above us? You think. Before he finishes, Alex is already there. One fluid motion, silent, fast. His blade flashes out from under his cloak. A clean, silver arc. No wasted movement. Steel bites through the commander's neck with a quiet HHK. Too fast for pain, too precise for resistance. The man's words die in his throat. His body drops in a graceless heap, blood spreading quickly over the black stone floor. Alex exhales as if brushing off dust. No, he says softly, to no one in particular. I don't think I'm above you. He turns, slipping the blade back into its sheath. I know I am. Chapter 190. A strange monolith. Alex exhales slowly and swipes his hand through the air. SHRRRK. A sudden pull surges from his palm. The surrounding items. Tier 4 weapons, glowing herbs, arcane tomes, shudder, then whoosh toward him, sucked into his inventory like dust into a vacuum. The magic relics vanish mid-air. No sound, no flare, gone in a blink. Alex steps forward, unhurried, eyes fixed on the coffin. The obsidian lid is cold beneath his fingertips as he rests his hand on it. The air here hums, low, steady, a vibration only a few could feel. He pushes. Clunk. The seal breaks with a quiet click. Ancient wards flicker and die like candlelight snuffed out by wind. The coffin opens. Alex leans over and his eyes gleam. Inside, nestled in velvet folds of faded crimson cloth, lies a body long since turned to ash and dust. But that's not what catches his attention. His gaze locks onto a herb-curled, black-veined leaves with shimmering veins of violet. Subtle, almost dormant, but unmistakable to him. He laughs low and short, more breath than sound. Well, that's a surprise. He ignores the tier 5 gear scattered beside the remains. Ancient armor, runed blades, enchanted jewels, all meaningless. But this? He reaches in and plucks the herb gently between 2 fingers, holding it up to the dim glow of the chamber. The whisper root, he murmurs, a rare flicker of warmth in his voice. One of the side ingredients. He closes his hand over it, tucking it safely away. Then, softly, he says to himself, now, I just need the 2 main ones. His smile fades. Not gone, just resting beneath the surface. Alex takes one last glance around the tomb, letting the silence settle. Then, without a word, he turns and strides back toward the entrance. The heavy air doesn't resist him. The seals that once warded the tomb stay silent now. He steps past them and out into the misty ruins beyond. A faint breeze moves through the crumbled archways. Dust drifts lazily, barely disturbed by his passage. Outside he stops, lifts the locator stone again. He channels mana into it again, this time with intent. The stone's runes flicker once, twice, then shift. A new beam ignites, this one sweeping out in a slow arc before locking onto a fresh direction. West-northwest. Faint but sure. Another victims. Alex adjusts his stance and begins walking. Quiet steps on broken stone, mist curling around his boots. Alex follows the locator's pulsing beam, letting it guide him deeper into the ruins. The fog thickens, curling around ruined spires and broken statues like creeping fingers. The hum of distant mana, active, sharp, chaotic, grows louder with each step. Then he hears it. Shouting, clashing steel, the unmistakable whine of spellfire. Alex crests a shattered ridge, crouching low behind a chunk of broken masonry, and peers down. There they are. Two forces locked in savage battle. A full squad of Emberclaw soldiers hammering against a formation of Astrum elites. Crimson armor versus silver and black. The clash is as brutal as it is chaotic. Bolts of lightning arc overhead. Explosions rock the stone. Blood slicks the ground in both colors. And at the center, two figures stand out. One is a broad-shouldered Emberclaw commander, his axe humming with fire-etched runes, barking orders and cleaving through Astrum troops with raw aggression. The other is the Astrum commander, leaner, wrapped in layered robes laced with arcane glyphs. She floats above the ground, her eyes glowing bright blue, casting layered barrier spells while launching counterattacks in sharp, vicious bursts. Alex watches them for a long moment, arms folded. Then he sighs lightly, his voice dry. Well, that's convenient. He glances down at the insignia still clipped to his belt. The Emberclaw mark, half-torn, stained with old blood. Technically, I'm still one of theirs, he murmurs. Though not for much longer. His gaze returns to the chaos below. One Emberclaw soldier gets impaled by a pike. Another Astromage is incinerated by a fire wave from the commander's axe. He leans back against the stone, resting one elbow lazily. Let them kill each other, he says quietly. Why waste energy when the enemy's takes itself out? The battle drags on. Brutal, sloppy, but inevitable. On the field below, it becomes clearer with every passing minute. The Astrum side holds the advantage. Not just in coordination but in sheer numbers. There are at least double the Emberclaw forces, maybe more. The tide shifts fast. Alex watches, unmoving. Astrum mages tighten their formations, laying down wards and glyphs in practice sync. Their front line closes in like a jaw of iron, shields overlapping, spears stabbing with ruthless timing. Emberclaw soldiers buckle under the pressure. Fatigue, wounds, and disarray breaking what little cohesion they had left. The Emberclaw commander roars, fire bursting from his axe, cutting 3 down in one swing. But it's not enough. Within minutes, the last of the Emberclaw soldiers fall. The field is quiet now. Only the Astrum survivors left, tending wounds, casting barrier reinforcements, dragging the dead away from the path. Alex pushes off the rock he's been leaning on. Time to clean up. He walks down the slope, calm, unhurried. Mist swirls around him, hiding his approach until he's almost within striking distance. The Astrum commander is the first to notice. Who? Her words cut off as Alex steps into view, the Emberclaw insignia still faintly visible on his belt. Emberclaw? There's still one that survive. She spits. Then you can die with the rest of them. Alex stops 5 steps from her. Doesn't answer. Instead, he just lifts one hand. Snap. A single, clean motion. And all hell breaks loose. A surge of mana pulses outward. Cold, compressed, devastating. A shockwave flattens the nearest soldiers before they can react. One tries to cast a spell, but too slow. He shatters like glass under pressure. The commander screams, rallying her forces. Kill him. But Alex is already moving. A blink. A shimmer. He's behind them. His blade sings. One Astrum elite falls, throat opened in a perfect line. Another drops as a spear of shadow bursts from his chest. Summoned and launched in the same motion. No wasted effort.
No hesitación.
Alex moves through them like smoke through fire. Untouchable. Unstoppable. The Astrum commander manages to hurl a bolt of compressed ice. He raises his palm. The spell stops mid-air, suspended, then collapses into a ball the size of a coin. He flicks it back at her. Boom. The explosion throws her into a broken column. She slumps, dazed, blood trailing from her temple. Alex approaches, blade dragging slightly along the ground, leaving a faint glowing line. She coughs and tries to rise. She coughs and tries to rise. Please, don't kill me. I'll do anything. Alex looks down at her. He raises his blade. Then die. A sharp slash. And silence. Blood pools. Steel cools. Alex turns slowly, surveying the scattered corpses, the smoldering spells, the wreckage. He opens his palm again. SHRRRK. Weapons, relics, enchanted cores. All lift from the dead and streak into his inventory. A clean sweep. Alex exhales softly. 2 enemy squads gone. He lifts the locator stone again. The beam pulses, shifting now, pointing slightly northwest again. deeper into the ruins. Alex doesn't hesitate. He keeps moving. Step by step, guided by the locator stone, he weaves through the ruins. Every pulse of the stone leads to another group. More Astrum squads. More cleanup. Some try to flee. Some try to beg. Most try to fight. None succeed. Alex is quiet through it all. Efficient. Detached. He doesn't revel in the killing, he simply does it. Like pruning weeds. The blood on his blade dries before he needs to swing it again. Eventually, he finds an entrance. Since the stone is pointing that way, he heads inside. He emerges from the mist into a wide clearing. The air here unnaturally still. The ground is flattened stone, overgrown in places with moss and cracks, but in the center stands a monolith. Massive, black, towering over everything like a silent judge. Glowing red runes shift across its surface, and near the top, hovering just above the stone, a burning timer counts down. 5 o'clock. Around the monolith, two armies face each other. Emberclaw forces on one side, Astrum forces on the other. Neither moving. No blades drawn, no spells cast. Just silence. Suspicion. Tension wound tight as a bowstring. Lathar spots him first. "Alex!" he calls out. Relief in his voice as he waves him over. Heads turn. A few of his soldiers murmur, stepping aside as Alex strides past them. Calm and unreadable. Lathar meets him halfway, grinning despite the grimness. "Our commander is now here." Alex glances at the line of soldiers at Lathar's back, then back at Lathar. Almost half still not here. Lathar's smile fades a little. He nods. "They probably didn't make it." Alex's gaze shifts toward the Astrum side. He tilts his head slightly. "Oh, a lot of people still aren't here on Astrum's side. Even a few commanders are missing." His tone is casual, almost bored. Lathar side-eyes him. "Yeah, looks like it." Lathar sighs, hands on his hips. "Anyway, looks like this is the end point. Everyone's been trickling in from different entrants." Alex looks up at the structure. The timer ticks down. 4:46. "What's that countdown for?" he asks. Lathar shakes his head. "No one knows. It started ticking once the first group arrived. No one's dared touch it. Everyone's just waiting, watching. No one wants to be the idiot who makes the first move." Alex studies the monolith a moment longer. His fingers twitch, almost like he's tempted to poke it just to see what would happen. Instead, he folds his arms and says flatly, "So we are waiting to see if it's a prize or a curse." Lathar nods. "Pretty much." Chapter 191. 5 stages. For 32. The timer ticks on, glowing a little brighter now with each passing second. The runes ripple faintly across the monolith's surface, like it's waking up. Alex watches it without blinking, arms still folded. Behind him, the air stirs. Boots stomp on stone. Armored figures emerge from the misted pathways like ghosts returning from battle. Some drag wounded behind them, others limp. Many come alone. Emberclaw reinforcements arrive slowly, but not proudly.
No chairs.
No relief, just silence and tired eyes. Among them, the Emberclaw commanders begin to appear. The tall, broad figure of Commander Brocker steps into the clearing with a small cluster of battered soldiers behind him. His red pauldrons are cracked, one arm wrapped tightly in makeshift bandages. There's a faint burn scar trailing across one side of his cheek. Lathar notices him first. He straightens, instinctively squaring his shoulders, expecting some kind of jab. But Brocker just walks past, quiet. He doesn't even glance in Lathar's direction. Lathar blinks. "Okay. Now that's unsettling." Alex doesn't respond. Another Emberclaw squad enters, followed by 2 more commanders. They look worse. Blood stains their armor. Their squads are ragged, barely a dozen soldiers each. No more than half their expected numbers. On the other side, Astrum commanders begin to arrive as well. Their expressions are the same, worn, grim. Their formations are thin, uneven. Some units are missing entirely. Everyone walks like they've been through something that took more than just numbers from them. 3:17. The tension is thick now, almost physical. The hum of the monolith deepens, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat echoing through stone. Lathar watches Brocker as he stands at the edge of the Emberclaw formation. Unmoving, his gaze fixed on the Astrum side like he's staring at a ghost. Lathar steps up beside him, crossing his arms. "What's with the long face? Not used to seeing me in one piece." Brocker doesn't rise to the bait. Not like he usually does. He exhales slowly through his nose, jaw tight. "You see that bastard over there?" Lathar follows his gaze. Across the field, half slumped against a support pole, flanked by what's left of his command squad. His armor is in tatters, one eye swollen shut. He's barely standing, but the glint in his eye, spiteful, proud, still burns. Brocker's voice lowers. "That's Darce." Lathar narrows his eyes. Recognition flickers. "You serious?" Brocker gives a stiff nod. "The reason I joined Emberclaw in the first place," he mutters. "He led the raid on Redvale, burned the whole damn village to ash. My family was in that village. They all died." Lathar goes quiet. Brocker's fists clench. "Since we arrived here, I've had one goal, to find him, kill him and make it count." He scoffs bitterly. I did find him. We tore through his units like fire through straw. But that bastard, he sacrificed his own men. Threw them at us just to cover his escape. His voice cracks with quiet fury. Took half of my unit with him in the process. Lathar looks at him for a long moment. Then he says, quiet but firm, Brokkr, don't start anything. Not now. Brokkr grits his teeth, gaze never leaving Darce. I know, he mutters. If I start a fight now, a war will erupt in this room. Lathar nods slowly, letting out a breath. Good. You're still on your right mind then. Brokkr gives a dry grunt. Barely. They fall silent. The hum of the monolith filling the air around them. Neither man moves. Neither speaks. The countdown glows steadily above, unrelenting. They fall silent. The hum of the monolith filling the air around them. Neither man moves. Neither speaks. The countdown glows steadily above, unrelenting. 202. More Emberclaw units trickle in, limping, bloody, worn thin. Commanders regroup with what's left of their squads, murmuring quietly, their eyes locked on the monolith and the ticking timer. By the time the countdown hits 30, the Emberclaw side has gathered nearly its full strength. 10 out of 13 commanders now stand in formation. On the Astrum side, the numbers are starkly different. Only 10 of their 20 commanders have returned. Their forces are thinner, more ragged. Whole squads are missing. Some groups have no officer among them at all. A tall monster steps forward, Tier 5, draped in ornate blue armor and tattered robes. His expression strained and sharp. He looks around slowly, voice low but cutting. How did this happen? He says. There's no way. No way. Only 3 of their commanders fell, and we lost 10. Another commander nearby scoffs. They must still be on their way, she says quickly, grasping for logic. They'll come. Just delayed. The Tier 5 man turns toward her, eyes narrowing. We're not talking about foot soldiers. These are commanders. You think 10 of them all just happened to fall behind? Before anyone can answer, boom! A low, grinding thud echoes across the clearing. Everyone whirls around. The stone entrances that lead into the chamber begin to close. Heavy slabs of dark rock rumble into place, sealing off each pathway with a final, echoing slam. A pale red light pulses across the surface of the monolith. Then, lines of glowing text begin to scroll across the face of the stone in a language everyone can read. The final phase has begun. All entrants are closed. Anyone still outside this chamber will be terminated. A hush falls. The Astrum commander stares at the message, jaw clenched. What? A low hum starts to build. Then the ground shifts. With a deep, grinding roar, 5 circular platforms rise from the stone floor, massive rings that spread out across the chamber. Energy pulses around their edges, and within moments, shimmering barriers surge up, forming translucent domes over each arena. Everyone steps back. The monolith pulses again. New text etches itself across the glowing stone surface in sharp, clear lines. To claim the final prize, all must pass through 5 stages. Stage 1. Survival. Each arena must be reduced to exactly 100 survivors to advance. Gasps ripple through the gathered monsters. Lathar mutters. Wait, what? Brokkr squints at the monolith, as if hoping he misread it. Each arena has to be reduced to 100? There's 5 arenas. That's 200 in each. Alex says quietly, his tone neutral. 1,000 of us in total. One of the Astrum commanders steps forward, snarling. That's not survival, that's slaughter. They want us to kill each other. Another voice rises from the Emberclaw ranks, guttural and bitter. This is nice. I've been itching to kill those bastards. I just didn't encounter those idiots outside. The shields around each arena begin to shimmer, shifting in hue, colors spiraling slowly like liquid light. Then without warning, pillars rise from the center of each ring and pulse once, casting down rays of energy. One Emberclaw commander roars. Come on then, Astrum scum. I'll rip 10 of you down with me. A snarling Astrum commander laughs. Try it. I'll stack Emberclaw skulls till I build a throne. The tension snaps like a drawn bowstring. With a flash of light, instant and blinding bodies vanish. Alex barely registers the shift before his feet slam down on new ground. The arena, white, enclosed. The dome above hums with energy. Around him, chaos. He hears steel clash against bone, fire igniting, magic screaming. All around, monsters are already tearing into each other. A horned brute crashes into a lean, blade-armed warrior before either can orient. Blood sprays, screams echo. Lathar lands nearby, rolling to absorb the impact. He rises fast, blades drawn, eyes already scanning. This is madness. Brokkr materializes a few meters away, shield raised, axe in hand. His face is stone. Here I come, bastard. A hulking Astrum commander beast snarls across from them, his eyes locking with Brokkr's. Recognition. Hatred. You again, you ember filth? The beast growls. Brokkr steps forward. This time you won't be able to get away. Without warning, the Astrum commander charges. Brokkr meets him head-on with a roar, the impact shaking the ground beneath them. Elsewhere in the arena, Emberclaw and Astrum forces collide like crashing tides. Spells arc fangs flash. Bodies fall. Alex sidesteps a spear thrust and counters with a precise strike, cutting down a lunging lizard-like warrior. No time to speak. No time to think. Lathar ducks under a blast of ice, slashing upward to split an Astrum soldier across the chest. The number above the arena ticks down. 200, 187, 173. In under a minute, it hits 150. 50 gone. Just like that. Alex watches the number flash. They really hate each other so much, he mutters. Across the field, formations are already forming. Lines snapping into place, units clustering, shields raised, casters moving behind cover. Form up! A voice bellows from the Emberclaw ranks. Brocker, still locked in brutal melee, shouts between gritted teeth. Second wave, anchor left flank, cut off their backliners. Lathar spins out of a duel, breath ragged. We need to move now. If we stay scattered, we're going to be picked apart. Alex nods. Everyone on me. Tight diamond. Prioritize movement and protection. Don't overextend. Several Emberclaw soldiers nearby pause. They hesitate not because they doubt the command but because of who gave it. Their eyes flick to Alex. Just a new commander. No insignia of rank beyond the minimum. No famed exploits. No deep veteran lines scored into his armor. But Brocker isn't giving orders. He's too deep in his own war, locked in a bone-splitting clash with his sworn enemy. And in the chaos of the arena, someone has to lead. The hesitation doesn't last long. One of Brocker's unit captains, his left pauldron dented and helm missing, grits his teeth and gives a sharp nod. Form on the new command, he barks. You heard him. Diamond pattern move. Chapter 192. The second stage, Part 1. The Emberclaw soldiers shift without another word. Armor scrapes, shields raise, bloodied warriors fall in around Alex, forming the shape he called for. Tight diamond, front rank shield bearers, rear and flanks covered by mages and ranged units, middle packed with flexible fighters. Alex steps into the heart of the formation, his voice calm but firm. Front line, brace and absorb. Rear line, target high-value casters. Anyone straying out of formation dies. We move as one. A blast of green fire slams against their left side. An Astrum caster unleashing chainfire bolts. Shields strain but hold. The formation sways but doesn't break. Suppress the caster, Alex calls out. Second row, 3 o'clock. 3 Emberclaw mages raise their staves as one. A coordinated volley of lightning and fire arcs over the front line, slamming into the Astrum mage just as he begins casting again. The spell dies in his throat as his chest explodes in flame. He didn't even have time to scream. He just crumples. Alex exhales sharply. Keep moving. Shift east. Don't hold one spot too long. They'll start bombarding. They do. Within seconds, Astrum spells rain down on where Alex's group had just been. An explosion of frost and dark energy shatters the stones behind them. Forward. Step by step. Their formation inches through the storm. They don't fight to dominate, they fight to survive. Pick off stragglers, overwhelm solo targets, retreat before they're surrounded. Precision instead of power. Alex watches every angle. He calls targets, redirects movement, tells a shield bearer to swap with a wounded one before the gap opens. Orders a stunned caster pulled back by a glaive hook. It doesn't feel like leading a war. It feels like playing an instrument with bloodied strings. The number over the arena ticks down. 142, 126, 119. A howl erupts to their right. 2 Emberclaw soldiers about to be swarmed. Break rank. Left wing, reinforce. Alex snaps. They do. Not even a second's hesitation. The diamond formation splits in a practiced motion. For warriors sweeping out in a half-arc to slam into the Astrum flanking force. The 2 overwhelmed soldiers stumble back into formation, barely alive. Alex flicks his blade to the side, deflecting a thrown dagger, and hurls a small orb of compressed fire into a leaping assassin. The Astrum fighter hits the ground, limbs bending wrong. Regroup. Hold shape. We're almost there. They are. Alex glances at the number again. Still dropping fast. Screams echo. Explosions crack through the air like thunder. But his formation is still up. Holding. No one speaking anymore. Just breathing. Fighting. Surviving. Then, suddenly, the number hits with a chime that rings through the air like a temple bell. Alex's body seizes. Everyone can't move. His sword arm freezes midguard. His feet lock to the ground. All around him, Emberclaw and Astrum alike fall still. Statues of war, some locked in strikes, others collapsed in wounded heaps. A sharp pulse of light explodes outward from the center of the arena. Brilliant and blinding. It floods across every frozen figure, washing the battlefield in a pale white glow. And then, they vanish. A split second later, Alex's boots land hard on solid stone. The light fades. The noise dies. They're outside again. Around him, Emberclaw warriors drop to their knees or sink to the ground. Most are covered in blood. Many are burned. Some sob. Some look around, dazed, unsure if this is real. Brocker is kneeling, chest heaving, axe resting beside him. Blood drips from 100 cuts on his body, but the fire in his eyes still burns. The Astrum commander he was fighting? Gone. Only a black smear remains where he fell. Ladhar steps to Alex's side, panting, blades dripping. He doesn't say anything for a moment, just stares at the horizon with wide, hollow eyes. Then he exhales. So, you have some talent in strategy. Alex wipes blood off his blade with a controlled motion. His voice is cool, almost casual. Just some basic strategy. Ladhar lets out a dry, bitter laugh. Basic, huh? You led like you've done it 100 times. Alex says nothing, but in his mind he reflects, in my past life, I've done it more than 100 times in games. Maps, units, movement, control. Games, simulations, ranked battles. Endless late nights optimizing builds, watching replays, breaking down enemy formations. In his old world it was all pixels. Now it's blood and bone. He glances around. The survivors number just under 60. Fewer Emberclaw than they started with, but more than he expected. The formation, the quick adjustments, the focus strikes, it saved lives. On the other side of the chamber, another group begins to form. The Astrum survivors. Their numbers are visibly thinner. Barely over 40. Brocker finally rises, wiping blood from his mouth. His voice is gravelly as he laughs. Haha, I finally killed that bastard. The remaining 4 arenas begin to flare, white light pulsing from their centers. And then, one by one, the survivors are ejected out. In the second arena, the Astrum dominate. Roaring, bloodied, and victorious. In the third arena, Emberclaw holds barely. In the fourth and fifth, Astrum holds full control. Alex watches them appear one cluster at a time. He counts silently. Only 2 arenas where Emberclaw came out on top. His thought, no wonder these guys haven't overthrown Astrum. Their hate burns hot, but their strength is a mess. The air is thick, not just with blood, but tension. Dozens of survivors eye each other across the massive chamber. Hundreds of them now gathered on the smooth, dark stone, enclosed by walls etched with glowing veins of runes. Then, boom! The central monolith thrums to life once more, a beam of light shooting upward from its tip. Everyone turns toward it instinctively. More glowing text begins to etch itself onto the stone's surface, steady and clear. Stage 2, Trial of Beasts. Participants will be randomly assigned into groups of 20. Each group must survive waves of beasts chosen at random. Fail and you die. Succeed, and you advance. A hush spreads as the last line of glowing text sinks into the stone. One of the Emberclaw soldiers, a tall spearman with a torn cloak and blood crusting his jaw, growls under his breath. Wait! Does that mean we'll be paired with those scum? The word scum hangs in the air like a spark waiting to catch flame. Ladhar, standing beside Alex, doesn't look over. He just mutters, looks like it. His eyes scan the Astrum survivors. This is going to be hard. Another Emberclaw curses under his breath. A few shift uneasily, fingers twitching near their weapons. Tension climbs fast. Years of blood feuds and bitter losses pressing on every soldier's throat. Alex doesn't let it build. He turns sharply to his unit, voice slicing through the air like a blade. We only have 5 minutes to heal, so unless you want to die in the next round, I suggest you stop whining and start moving. He raises one hand and a soft pulse of light flashes over his armor as a healing rune activates. Around him, the Emberclaw soldiers snap into motion. Potions uncork. Bandages are torn from pouches. Mages kneel to cast weak but efficient restoration spells. Wounds hiss and seal. Bones reset. Burns cool. Across the chamber, the other Emberclaw commanders bark similar orders. Medic circle now. Prioritize the frontliners. Anyone half dead, speak up. Don't be stupid. Even the Astrum groups begin to shift, though more coldly, more quietly. Their formation discipline is still visible, even in rest. They patch wounds with the same calm ruthlessness they showed in battle. Brocker leans against his axe, watching them, jaw tight. We're fighting beasts next, he mutters. Not each other. But mark my words. If I see one of them, I will stab the scum in the back mid-round. Alex doesn't look at him. They are probably thinking the same. Brocker huffs, almost a laugh, but not quite. Fair enough. The 5 arenas rumble suddenly, then collapse straight into the ground as if swallowed by the earth. In their place, a massive dome rises from the stone floor. It's seamless, smooth, and covered in a thick swirling fog that clings to its surface like smoke. No one can see inside. A low hum pulses from within. Sounds like breath, long, slow, and heavy. Then, without warning, a flash of white light. 20 figures vanish from the chamber floor and reappear inside the dome. 13 from Emberclaw, 7 from Astrum. Everyone watches in tense silence. No one knows what happens inside. The fog conceals everything. The only sounds are distant thuds, occasional roars, and faint screams that send chills down the spine. Brocker squints. That's not normal mist, he mutters. It's masking spells, heavy ones. Ladhar nods slowly, his expression grim. Which means whatever's going on in there, we're not supposed to see it. So they wait. 5 minutes pass. 7. 8. Then, light flares along the dome's base. A pulse of energy ripples outward, and in a blink, figures begin to reappear. Teleported back. Alex's eyes narrow as 5 Emberclaw survivors suddenly manifest near the dome's edge, slumping to the ground in bloody heaps. 2 of them can barely crawl. 1 collapses outright, still breathing, but only just. A heartbeat later, 3 Astrum survivors flash into place across the chamber. They're in no better shape. Burned, torn, smeared in gore that isn't all their own. 1 is missing an arm. Another is vomiting dark blood onto the stone. Silent for a moment. Then the chamber erupts in noise. 5? That's it? An Emberclaw soldier snarls, clawed hands balling into fists. 13 went in. Across the floor, a tall Astrum warrior with scaled skin slams a fist into the ground. 3. What kind of monsters were in there? Chapter 193. The second stage, Part 2. One of the Emberclaw commanders, an older mage with jagged horns and burn-scored robes, steps forward quickly. Don't ask questions now, he barks. Heal them first. They look like they're about to die. The order cuts through the rising panic like a blade. Without hesitation, nearby mages drop to their knees, channeling pale green and golden light into the fallen. 1 Emberclaw survivor spasms as ribs knit audibly beneath his skin. Another begins to breathe again, shallow and fast, but alive. Alex steps back slightly, letting the healers do their work. Lathar kneels beside one of the more conscious survivors. A lean, lizard-like fighter with his armor shredded and one eye swollen shut. He speaks quietly. What happened in there? The soldier coughs, blood flecking his chin. His voice is raw. Forest. It dropped us in a forest. Couldn't see the edge. Damp. Too quiet. Lathar doesn't interrupt. He waits. Then, beasts came. The soldier continues. Big ones. Packs. Some alone, some with armor like stone. First wave was fast things. Then came the burrowers. Then flying bastards. He stops, wincing as a healer seals a jagged wound across his thigh. And the Astrum soldiers? Lathar asks, voice low. The soldier's jaw clenches. That's the problem. He looks at Alex now, voice bitter. We weren't just fighting beasts. We were watching our backs the whole time, making sure none of them tried something. They didn't trust us. We didn't trust them. First 3 minutes, no one said a word. Just fighting. A pause. Then it broke. One of theirs got cornered. We had a clean shot to save him. But no one moved. One of ours got knocked down. They also let it happen. He swallows hard.
No coordination.
No leadership. Everyone just trying to survive on their own. That's why it turned into a slaughter. Another survivor groans nearby, barely conscious, but nods weakly. They turn their backs on us, and we turn our back on them, someone else mutters. One of the other 5 Emberclaw, his voice thick with rage. Didn't even pretend to help. Then ran when the big one showed up. Lathar's face darkens, but he only says, did anyone try to lead? The wounded soldier licks blood off his cracked lips and looks Lathar straight in the eye.
No.
No one led because no one could. The beasts inside. He shakes his head slowly, trembling. They're not the kind you can just react to. They're relentless. Fast. Smart. They flank, corner, split groups. A few of us? Even with the strong ones, we don't stand a chance. He gestures weakly toward the dome, still pulsing faintly with that strange fog. It needs all 20. Coordination. Timing. If even one link breaks, it's over. The silence that follows is thicker than blood. Lathar rises slowly to his full height, his worn black armor glinting under the runelight. He takes a deep breath, glances at Alex, then scans the crowd. He raises his voice. Commanders, he calls out, calm but firm. Gather. Now. There's a moment of hesitation. One of the younger Emberclaw commander, a burly man with a spiked mace on his back, frowns and glances to the side. But they move. Because it's Lathar. He's not just a veteran. He's one of the first commanders to ever join Emberclaw, before the name even meant anything. One of the few to reach peak tier 5 and still walk among the rank and file. Even Astrum commanders eye him warily. They don't move, but they don't interrupt either. Brocker grunts and cracks his neck. Finally, the commanders of Emberclaw gather near Lathar, boots echoing against the dark stone. Their expressions are hard, tired, but attentive. Across the chamber, a group of Astrum commanders watches with quiet intensity. 4 of them. One steps forward. He's tall, lean, with silver-etched black armor that gleams with controlled mana. A crimson cape drapes across one shoulder, partially hiding the long blade strapped to his back. His eyes are cold, intelligent, and the rank sigil etched into his collar is unmistakable. Peak tier 5. He walks alone toward Lathar.
No guards. No escorts.
Just presence. Alex watches closely from behind, arms crossed. The man stops 5 paces from Lathar. The crowd shifts slightly, tension rippling like a drawn bowstring. Then the Astrum commander inclines his head. Just enough to be noticed. Not enough to seem subordinate. Commander Lathar. Lathar doesn't move for a moment. Then he returns the nod. The name draws a few murmurs. Varn the Steel Vein. Known for tactical brilliance, ruthless efficiency, and being impossible to kill. Even Brokkr goes quiet. Varn doesn't waste time. We both know what the outcome will be if we go into the next dome like the last. Mutual slaughter. Agreed. Lathar says evenly. Varn tilts his head slightly. Then let's speak plainly. Our two sides have spilled blood for over 20 years.
No truce. No ceasefire.
And no trust. None, Lathar agrees. But the beasts don't care about our grudge. There's a long pause. Then Varn says, voice flat but not hostile. I lost those good warriors in that dome. Because your soldiers hesitated. Because mine did too. Lathar doesn't flinch. So did I. Another silence. This one stretches longer. Then Varn speaks quietly. I propose a temporary alignment. Not peace. Not forgiveness. But cooperation. Lathar considers that. Then nods. Agreed. Varn extends a hand. It's not a dramatic gesture, just practical. Like two merchants making a deal over blood and bone. Lathar takes it. For a moment, the commanders of Emberclaw and Astrum are frozen in place. Watching this quiet, impossible sight. Alex sees the mix of disbelief and calculation in their eyes. Some don't like it, but none interrupt. Back outside the crypt, the wind stirs dust around the silent stones, brushing against armor and banners alike. The entrance to the tomb pulses faintly, its light flickering at irregular intervals, like a heartbeat deep beneath the earth. Astrum leans against a crooked obsidian stone jutting from the ground, arms crossed. His expression is unreadable, but his eyes are locked on the tomb's mouth. Hey, human king, he says suddenly, voice casual, but loud enough to carry. Do they usually take days if someone goes in that crypt? Rewalt, seated on a weathered stone step with a thick fur cloak wrapped around his shoulders, looks up. That's what the textbooks in my kingdom's archives say. He gestures lazily with one hand toward the tomb. Every time it opened before, the entrance either died, came back broken, or took days. Sometimes weeks. Varith arms behind his back, lets out a sharp breath. Then we can only go back. It's not like we'll wait here for days in this cursed wind. Rewalt said. Then allow me to offer you a place to wait. Astrum arches a brow. Good. He doesn't say thank you, and Rewalt doesn't expect it. After the agreement, everything moves with the grim momentum of necessity. Wounds are treated. Ranks reorganized. Tension between the Emberclaw and Astrum doesn't vanish, but it hardens into a brittle alliance, something sharp and useful. Groups made up of a mix between Emberclaw and Astrum forces are teleported. When they emerge, it's not as tragic as the last time. The monolith begins selecting the next participants. Without warning, within the blink of an eye, Brokkr vanishes, along with 9 of his soldiers. Across the field, a mirrored flash devours 1 Astrum commander and 9 of theirs. They're simply gone. The world reappears in pieces. Damp leaves, distant birdsong, a faint breeze. Brokkr grunts, landing in a half-crouch. Around him, his Emberclaw elites appear beside him. They're in a forest. Broad-trunked trees rise like silent towers around them. The air is sharp, fresh, and clear.
No fog. No strange echoes.
Just a still, watchful silence. Brokkr straightens slowly, sniffing the air. The thick musk of soil, sap, and old bark fills his lungs. No fog. He glances around. His Emberclaw squad, all veterans, check their gear without a word. One mutters a sharp phrase and ignites a short flare of flame between his palms, as if to confirm his powers intact. Another, a sharp-eyed woman with obsidian tattoos, scales the nearest tree with clawed gauntlets and vanishes into the canopy. Brokkr scans the clearing again. His eyes narrow. Fan out. Defensive wedge. I want vision in every direction. Before anyone moves, a sound cracks through the still air. 10 more pulses of displaced space. Just next to them, 10 figures shimmer into place. The silver-etched armor gleams even in the forest's filtered light. Astrum, their commander, a gaunt man with pale gold eyes and layered robes that ripple with wind affinity, raises a single hand to halt his squad. The two groups face each other, tension rolling off them like heat from a forge. Brokkr doesn't raise his weapon. Yet, wonderful, he growls. Brokkr's lip curls. Name, Commander Thales. But before more words can be exchanged, the air changes. A sharp crack like stone splitting under pressure. Then another. From the eastern treeline, something massive lumbers into view. It looks almost like a boar, if a boar had boneplate armor grown directly from its back and 6 tusks curving in spirals from its jaw. It snorts once, shaking loose gobs of steaming moss. Then more movement. A chittering swarm of long-bodied beasts, like wolves crossed with centipedes, slinks between the roots. From above, wings slice through the canopy. Shadows glide over the clearing. Positions. Brokkr roars, and in the same breath, the air ignites around his fists. Combat begins. One of the Emberclaw mages steps forward, voice low and furious. Tier 4. Scorchline. She slams both hands to the ground, and molten light races outward in a straight line. Lava-hot mana carving a trench of flame through oncoming beasts. Several centipede wolves screech as they catch fire mid-lunge. their bodies curling before collapsing in smoldering heaps. Chapter 194. Alex is going in. A sudden gust of wind tears through the clearing as Thales reacts just as fast. Tier 4. Gale Lock. He carves a sharp sigil in the air, and a pressure pulse detonates outward from him in a precise circle. The encroaching swarm stumbles, thrown back as invisible force slams into them. Chitin snapping, limbs twisting, the air itself turning into a cage of sharpened gusts. Brocker doesn't waste the opening. He surges forward like a charging boulder, his war axe already glowing with violent crimson runes. His voice is a low snarl.
Tier 9. Emberrend.
The axe explodes with fire as he swings it in a wide arc, the flames coiling like serpents around the blade. It cleaves straight through the armored boar beast's skull in one blow, fire trailing behind like a comet. Bone splits, brains sizzle, and the thing crumples with a shaking thud. Another screech erupts from the trees as 3 flying creatures dive. Long-winged, needle-beaked horrors with skin like stretched tar. Right flank. Thales barks, his voice sharp and practiced. Don't let them gain height. 2 of his soldiers answer instantly. 1, a woman with golden tattoos etched across her arms, lifts her palms to the sky. Tier 4. Skycutter. With a snap, blades of wind flash upward, narrow arcs of compressed atmosphere. They rip 2 of the flying beasts in half midair. The third dodges, dives, then gets blasted from the side by a pillar of earth as an Emberclaw warrior channels ground magic to spike it with a jagged column of stone. The bodies fall like dead leaves. Brocker twists, swinging his axe again as more centipede wolves burst through the trees. One lunges straight for his chest. Brocker ducks low, then steps into it, his axe slamming up under its jaw and cleaving through to the spine. The weapon hums with heat as he spins, dragging the body to hurl into another incoming beast. A soldier to his left screams, an Astrum soldier, dragged to the ground by one of the beasts. Its mandibles lock onto his arm, snapping bone like dry twigs. Brocker sees it. He doesn't hesitate. He bounds forward and kicks the beast off the soldier, then brings his axe down in a brutal vertical arc. Crack. The centipede's head splits down the middle, steam rising from the ruined body. The wounded Astrum groans, barely conscious. Brocker growls over his shoulder. Healers on him. Don't let one casualty break our flank. Thales nods once. Cover the back line. Another Emberclaw mage joins hands with an Astrum windcaller. A swirling spear of compressed heat and slicing air forms between them. It's hurled with a shriek that cuts across the clearing, and explodes on impact, vaporizing a cluster of beasts trying to encircle their rear. The forest trembles. More beasts still come. Now from the western ridge, bigger, slower, with obsidian-scaled hides that shimmer with latent mana. Magic resistant, Thales says grimly. Brocker cracks his neck. Then we go physical. He barrels forward again, faster than something his size should be. Minutes pass in carnage. Soldiers shout. Beasts shriek. Mana burns the air, thick and volatile. But the tide doesn't end. They start to slow, not from hesitation but exhaustion. The Emberclaw warriors fight with grit, shoulders hunched, arms trembling from constant blows. The Astrum soldiers are more precise, but their casting is delayed now, steps heavier, timing breaking. Injuries pile up. One soldier from each side drops at nearly the same moment. One to a crushed leg, the other bleeding out from a bite wound. Neither fatal, but both down. And they're not the only ones. A mage, then another crash. Something enormous lands just beyond the treeline, sending out a shockwave that flattens the grass and shakes leaves from branches. The beasts suddenly freeze, as if called to heal, then scatter, vanishing into the forest's edges like smoke pulled by wind. Silence. Then the trees part. It lumbers forward, massive and deliberate. At least 15 feet tall at the shoulder, its frame quadrupedal, its back ridged with jagged obsidian plates. Its face is covered by a skull-like mask fused directly into its flesh. No eyes, just glowing crimson slits beneath the bone. His presence presses down on them like gravity.
Mana Tikens.
The very forest seems to groan beneath it. Brocker's voice is low. That's not tier 4. Thales's eyes narrow.
No.
That's a peak tier 5. The soldiers shift, but none of them step forward. They're spent, bloodied, and they know. This fight is beyond them now. Brocker glances at the wounded, at the standing, then at Thales. They're done. Thales nods, grim. Brocker steps forward, axe resting across one shoulder. He exhales once, then rolls his neck, cracking it loud enough to echo. Guess it's just us, then. Thales floats forward until he's beside the brute of a man. Try not to die, Ember. Brocker smirks. You try not to run, Wind Boy. The beast growls low and deep. His breath carries heat, and something else like corrupted mana, old and rotting. Then it charges. The ground craters beneath it with the first step. Brocker meets it head-on. Outside, it's been 20 minutes. The silence around the monolith is heavy, broken only by the occasional shuffle of armor, the crackle of a campfire, or the distant cries of beasts deeper in the crypt. The air is still, but tension simmers in every breath. Lathar stands near the edge of the staging field, arms crossed, eyes locked on the monolith. He exhales slowly. 20 minutes. Think they're still alive in there. Alex stands a few steps away, posture relaxed but gaze sharp. They are. Lathar glances sideways. You're sure? Alex doesn't look at him. If Brocker were dead, the monolith would have reacted. We'd know. A beat of silence. Lathar shifts, clearly itching for more than vague confidence. What do you think happens after we finish all 5 stages? Alex's eyes narrow slightly as he finally turns his head. We don't know, but seeing how both Astrum and Varith are going all out, his voice trails off, then continues flatly. They might have an idea, something worth the risk, worth the bodies. Lathar huffs a laugh and shakes his head. You could at least call him Lord Varith. Show a little respect. You're already a commander. Alex shrugs, not unkindly. I only joined because we all want the same thing. Title doesn't matter. Goal does. Before Lathar can respond, the monolith hums, low at first, like a distant horn, then pulses with a flash of white-blue light. Everyone in the staging zone snaps to attention. Weapons half-raised. Healers pause mid-chant. Mages squint toward the light. Then, thwomp. A gust of wind rushes outward from the base of the monolith as 20 figures materialize. Brocker stands at the front, armor scuffed, streaked with ash and blood. One shoulder is torn open, flesh darkened from a burn, but he still holds his axe steady. Thales floats beside him, robe singed and torn at the hem, blood staining one side of his face. His breathing is shallow but composed. Behind them, the other soldiers slump. Some clutch wounds. One is being half-carried. Another is on a conjured stretcher of wind, barely conscious. Lathar steps forward, eyes scanning the group. You made it. Brocker snorts. Barely. One of the Astrum soldiers limps past the monolith's base, looking around at the others with wide, astonished eyes. No one died, he murmurs, since the second stage started. That's the first time a full group came back alive. The words ripple through the gathered soldiers like a wave. Even the Emberclaw troops blink, some turning to each other in silent surprise. Brocker doesn't react to the praise. He turns, waving over 2 of his warriors. Tend to this 2 warriors. Their ribs are cracked. Get that burn salve on his arm. Don't wait. The mages snap to it without hesitation. Packs open. Potions hiss. Bandages tighten around wounds. Their movements are brisk, efficient. This is what survival looks like. Lathar strides forward with a lopsided grin, nodding once in respect. Nice job, Brocker. You didn't let a single one of them fall. Brocker huffs, the corner of his mouth twitching. Didn't think I'd ever fight side by side with our enemy to survive. But here we are. Thales, still steadying himself with a flicker of mana, gives a dry chuckle. The feeling's mutual. Then the monolith hums again. Another group of 20 is chosen, half Emberclaw, half Astrum. They vanish in a rush of light, like sparks scattered by wind. The soldiers left behind don't relax. If anything, their jaws tighten. Minutes pass. And then they return. Not all of them. Another group goes in. More time. More losses. Another group goes in. More time passes. More losses. An hour slips by. Until finally, it's Alex and 10 others from his unit. They're the last ones remaining. A blink of light. A pulling sensation like the world turns inside out for half a breath. Then forest. Alex lands lightly, boots crunching down on wet leaves. The sky above is a green haze, thick with canopy and mist. Mana vibrates faintly in the air, like something old sleeps just beneath the roots. He exhales once, eyes narrowing. A second later, flickers of light surround him. In 2s and 3s, the rest of the Astrum squad flashes into place. Warriors, mages, one scout crouching with blades already drawn. Boots hit dirt, weapons unsheath. Quick glances all around. They're not alone. To his right, another ripple. More figures appear, cloaked in deep gray and indigo armor, the unmistakable shimmer of Astrum crests across their pauldrons. Chapter 9:15. Throwing Tier 5 skills, left and right. Their commander is among them. He steps forward without hesitation. Tall, lean, hair silvered with age but eyes sharp and calculating. The edge of his cloak catches the wind as he stops a few feet from Alex, gaze sliding over him with mild scrutiny. His brow furrows. It's my first time seeing you. Are you a new commander? Alex doesn't shift, doesn't blink. His voice is calm but clear. What about it if I am? The older commander's mouth twitches. Not quite a sneer, not quite amusement. He exhales through his nose. TSSK. What bad luck. A nearby soldier winces slightly at the bluntness, but Alex doesn't flinch. Instead, a faint grin pulls at the edge of his mouth, cold and unreadable. Alex's voice cuts through the mist like a blade. Yeah, he says. It is bad luck to have you here. So justi. The Astrum commander lets out a sharp, disbelieving laugh. But the sound doesn't last. His expression never even has time to change. His head is already falling, cleanly severed, before the laugh finishes echoing through the trees. It hits the ground with a soft thump. His body still upright for half a second before it collapses like a puppet with its strings cut. Silence crashes down like thunder. Even the birds in the trees seem to hold their breath. The Astrum soldiers freeze, staring at Alex as if they're not quite sure what they just saw. Some blink. One instinctively steps back. Another grips his weapon tighter but doesn't raise it. Even the Ember Claw soldiers behind Alex look stunned. Their commander just executed an Astrum officer with a single movement, effortless and merciless. One Ember soldier, eyes wide, breathes, "Commander!" Alex doesn't turn. He speaks without emotion, gaze locked on the remaining Astrum troops. "Kill the rest." There's a pause, like the whole forest is waiting. Then, another Ember soldier speaks, cautious, uncertain. "But we need everyone we can get to survive the beasts, even them." Alex doesn't waver. "I said," he repeats, voice sharper now, "kill them." A heavy silence follows. Then Alex steps forward. Just one pace. That's all it takes. The message is clear. Orders, not suggestions. And behind him, the Ember Claw soldiers move. Some slowly, some still hesitant, but they move. Weapons lift. Spells crackle to life. Steel glints in the filtered forest light. The Astrum troops, still reeling, instinctively begin to form up. Half defensive, half retreating. They understand now. This isn't a misunderstanding. This isn't a temporary alliance. This is execution. Alex doesn't draw his blade again. He doesn't need to. The Ember Claw soldiers descend like a storm. The Astrum troops are still panicking, disorganized, disbelief clouding their reactions. They shout fragmented commands. Some try to cast shields, others raise weapons, but none of it matters. A fire mage screams as an ember blade slashes clean across his throat. Another Astrum soldier raises his staff, only for an earth spike to erupt beneath him, skewering through his chest. One tries to flee, casting wind to boost his step, but a spear pins him mid-air, nailing him to a tree. The forest echoes with steel and blood. Minutes pass, and then, silence again. The last Astrum body hits the ground with a hollow thud, twitching once, then still. The Ember Claw stand amid the carnage, breathing hard, limbs trembling. Many are bleeding, some are barely upright, but they're alive. Alex steps over a corpse, calm as ever. Blood spatters his boots, his coat, but his expression doesn't change. He glances around, then speaks, low but firm. "Good." He turns to face his soldiers, eyes sharp. "I'll take whatever beasts come next. You all stay down and heal." One soldier, a younger man with a gash across his brow, blinks like he misheard. "Alone?" Another coughs from where he sits against a stone, blood on his lips. "Commander, we should set formation. At least cast barriers." "I said stay down," Alex says flatly. "But sir," the first one insists, "you'll be overwhelmed. You might be strong, but..." Alex cuts him off with a glance. A flicker of mana coils around his form like smoke tightening. "I'm not asking," Alex says. The weight of his voice drops like a stone in still water. Even the injured stop speaking. They remember, suddenly. They remember that Alex had fought Lathar to the ground. Peak tier 5 beaten and not barely. One of the soldiers whispers, almost dazed, "He's serious." Then, the air shifts. The mist grows heavier. Mana stirs unnaturally, dragging through the trees like invisible tides. Leaves rustle. Branches snap. The first beasts appear. Six-legged, hunched things with bone plating and vertical maws. Their eyes glow faintly, distorted by mana saturation. More follow. A dozen. Then more. Dozens. A full wave. Snarls echo across the glade. One Ember soldier starts to push up from the ground. Alex raises a hand, palm outward. "Don't." The beasts roar as one. Alex steps forward, raising his other hand. Mana flares to life. Raw, vibrant, and overwhelming. Alex's fingers curl around his sword hilt. The blade hums as it leaves the sheath, the air warping slightly around it, as if space itself recoils from the mana surging into the weapon. The beasts charge. Tier 5. Alex murmurs, almost to himself, "Let's see how many you can take." His eyes flash, glowing faintly. He slashes the blade sideways once, clean, controlled. Infernal crescent. A surge of fire bursts from the arc of his blade, wide and devastating. It doesn't just burn. It consumes, shaped like a crescent moon of molten death. It arcs through the first rank of beasts like a scythe, splitting them open mid-charge. Bodies explode into charred husks, flames clinging to their corpses like hungry ghosts. The shockwave knocks the others back. Screeches fill the forest. Panic. Chaos. Alex moves before the smoke clears. He leaps forward, boots barely touching the ground. Mana gathers at his sword again, this time cold, dense, and crushing. He spins once in midair and plunges his blade into the dirt with force that splits the forest floor. Glacial burst. The earth erupts upward as jagged spears of ice explode outward in every direction. The frost radiates through the air, freezing limbs, shattering bones. The remaining beasts are caught mid-motion. Frozen, shattered, or both. Shards of ice rain down like glass. The entire first wave is obliterated. Not one survives. Silence. The glade is littered with the steaming remains of burnt bodies and frostbitten limbs. The injured Ember Claw soldiers stare from where they sit or lie, wide-eyed, stunned. Not a single one of them has moved. One of them finally breathes, voice soft, almost reverent. He only used 2 Tier 5 skills. Another mutters. That's Tier 5? He is using Tier 5 skills like they're Tier 4. The silence doesn't last. The ground trembles again, heavier this time. The second wave charges out of the mist with savage urgency. Larger beasts this time. Tusked and armored, some with wings that snap like sails above their hunched forms. One screeches, a high-pitched wail that shatters a nearby branch. And Alex moves. He doesn't wait, doesn't hesitate. Storm Fong. A vacuum tears open as he slashes horizontally, wind and space ripping apart. The air itself bends, pulling beasts into the rift before collapsing with a thunderous snap. Bones shatter. Flesh is flayed. The impact is clean and unnatural. Then one final flourish. His sword glows deep gold, radiant with a fierce, searing light. Solar cleave. He brings the blade down like a guillotine. A column of pure light erupts forward in a straight line. Searing, blinding. Cuts through everything. Trees, rock, beast. The path it leaves behind is molten glass and ash. And just like that, again the second wave is gone. The Ember Claw soldiers don't even speak this time. They just stare. One finally chokes out. That was 3 more. That's 5 now. 5. A woman beside him, shoulder torn and wrapped in bloody cloth, whispers. Isn't Tier 5s usually only have 5? They do. Another says, voice hoarse with disbelief. That's how it's always been. Commander Lathar had 5. Some commanders had 4. A third roar breaks the air. The third wave. Dozens again. More than before. This time they come faster. Angrier. Bigger. Some crawl along the cliffsides. Some break from the trees with green, glowing eyes. Some fly. The Ember Claw soldiers look up in horror. Gods. One whispers. There's too many. Then they all see him. Alex steps out alone. No formation. No barriers. He raises his sword. And lets loose. Shortly after, the Ember Claw soldiers stare at the wasteland left behind. Smoke. Stone. Lightning. Craters. Nothing moves. Not one beast remains. No one speaks for a full 10 seconds. Then someone exhales, shaky and half hysterical. That's 10. He's already used 10 Tier 5 skills. Impossible. Another mutters. It's impossible. Is he some kind of heir to a powerful force from the main continent? He's not even breathing hard. Alex stands still, sword dripping faint mana like dew. His expression hasn't changed. The silence is broken again. But this time it's not from a horde. It's just one step. Heavy. Slow. Deliberate. The trees part, branches splintering under the weight of something massive. A single beast emerges from the fog. Taller than the trees, its body layered in plated obsidian armor that pulses faintly with violet veins. Its maw is split down the center, like a cracked boulder, and each breath it takes warps the mana around it. Its eyes lock onto Alex. Peak Tier 5. The air distorts around it, thick with pressure and barely contained force. Alex's gaze sharpens, but he doesn't flinch. He raises a brow, almost bored. A peak Tier 5? He says under his breath. Chapter 196. Anomaly detected. Behind him, one of the Ember Claw soldiers gasps. That thing's its aura is stronger than Commander Lathar. Another said under their breath. Commander. Alex steps forward once. His voice cuts through the tension. Stay down. The beast lets out a guttural roar. Trees bend. Some snap clean. Mana crackles like a storm cloud around its frame. Alex exhales softly. His sword is still at his side, point down. He doesn't draw it fully this time. He doesn't need to. Mana gathers at his fingertips. Dark and radiant, hot and cold. 2 opposing forces spiraling together in tight orbit. He murmurs, barely audible. Crimson Nova. His other hand rises, palm facing forward. Frost clings to his wrist, spreading upward in jagged patterns.
Frost rond-point.
The air goes still. Then everything moves at once. He slams his palms together. The resulting explosion is soundless for a breathless instant. Light and shadow twisting around one another. Then a detonation rips through the battlefield with a boom so loud it sends shockwaves rippling outward, flattening the trees, the rocks, the world itself for 100 meters in every direction. Fire and ice combine in a spiraling vortex that swallows the peak Tier 5 beast whole. Thrashes, howling, but the magic grips tighter. Flesh boiling and freezing simultaneously, armor plates cracking, splitting, melting. Then, boom! A second shockwave rips through the sky. The containment dome surrounding the battlefield, reinforced to withstand an attack of a multiple Tier 5, shatters like glass. Cracks splinter through the sky itself. The magic barrier groans and collapses. Outside, Ember Claw forces and Astrum alike look up as the glowing dome ruptures overhead. What the hell was that? One Astrum commander shouts, his head whipping toward the epicenter. Another Ember soldier stares, mouth open. The barrier. Did it just break? Back on the battlefield, the blast settles. Ash falls like snow. The crater left behind is wide, deep, scorched at the edges and glassy near the center. Steam rises from it, and in the very middle, what's left of the peak Tier 5 beast lies motionless, charred, frozen, unrecognizable. Alex stands at the edge of the crater. His coat flutters faintly from the aftershock winds. The wind dies down. The forest is silent. Then, crack, the air itself fractures. The shattered dome overhead crumbles into glittering fragments, disintegrating like fragile glass under a hammer. Light bends unnaturally. Trees, once looming and thick, fade out of existence like illusions, blinking away piece by piece until only a flat, eerie emptiness remains. The trial field is collapsing. Before anyone can process what they're seeing, a sound echoes through the air for the first time since this began. Anomaly detected. The voice is emotionless, cold, mechanical. It booms from the black monolith at the heart of the sky, now glowing, pulsing red. Trial cancelled. All participants marked for annihilation. A heartbeat later, beams of searing light explode outward from the monolith. Thin, focused, and lethal. They strike the ground, the soldiers, the beasts, anything that moves. Screams erupt across the field as bodies vanish into ash. One beam snaps toward Alex. He raises a hand. Swat. The light scatters like dust. Around the air is thick with smoke and magic residue. Broken formations scatter the field. Soldiers on both sides, Emberclaw and Astrum, lie in various states of confusion and panic. He blinks once. What the hell just happened? Alex mutters. His voice cuts through the chaos. Lather's voice answers, sharp and close behind him. I was about to ask you the same damn thing, he says, boots crunching through broken stone and frost-shattered earth as he jogs toward Alex. Dust streaks his armor, and one of his pauldrons is cracked. But his expression is focused. What happened inside? Did you broke the barrier? Alex doesn't turn immediately. He watches the monolith, still glowing red like an open wound in the sky. Alex watches in silence, eyes narrowing at the pulsing glow above. Then, Lathar steps beside him, tension thick in his voice. No, that's impossible. I doubt even Lord Vareth could break that barrier. That's not important right now, we need to get out of here. Now. He turns, glancing toward the edges of the shattered battlefield. Commanders have been trying to open a path, but nothing works. Every exit sealed. The entire chamber's locked down. No matter what they throw at it. Tier 5 spells, artifacts, they can't even scratch the walls. Alex's lips curl upward in a faint smirk. He mutters, half to himself. Then isn't this the perfect chance to make these monsters mine? From within his coat, he pulls out a small hexagonal token, etched with runes that shimmer in defiance of the surrounding magic. He presses his thumb into it. A flash of light pulses beneath his feet. Then whoosh, Alex lifts off the ground, calmly hovering above the chaos. Gasps erupt from below. Commander Alex is flying? That's not possible. No one can fly here. From both the Emberclaw and Astrum sides, soldiers stare in awe and disbelief. Then, another wave of pressure floods the area as the monolith begins to shift again, targeting him. But Alex is ready. He produces a second item. This one shaped like a black shard of glass, glowing with a soft blue core. He throws it into the air. Click. Time seems to freeze for a moment. The monolith flickers. Its beams hesitate. Then, with a mechanical whine, its lights dim, temporarily shut down. The sky above still pulses red, but it no longer attacks. Silence falls again. Even Lathar, still below, stares up with a rare look of stunned awe. Alex hovers above them all, cloak rippling gently behind him. His voice cuts through the thick, charged air, measured, firm, regal. Listen closely. He scans the field. I will reintroduce myself, not as a commander of the Emberclaw group. He pauses, letting the words settle. But as the king of Erevaris. Shock ripples through the crowd. A few commanders shift uncomfortably. One Astrum captain steps forward, incredulous. There is no kingdoms in our continent, he says. So that means you're from here. From the Three-Kingdom continent. Alex meets his gaze without flinching. That's right, he says coldly. The same continent you were planning to invade after this event. Murmurs erupt. Several soldiers freeze in place. Others glance at their commanders, unsure. Alex's voice hardens. But now things have changed. He raises his sword slightly, enough to let its aura flicker like a warning. You're trapped. The monolith is still active, and your strongest can't break the walls. He lets those truths sink in slow and heavy. Right now, I hold the only means to stop that thing from vaporizing all of you. His eyes blaze faint gold. So I'll give you a choice. His voice rings louder now, commanding. Kneel and submit to me, and I promise you all, you will leave this place alive. Another pause. His gaze sweeps across the stunned crowd. Soldiers, commanders, elites, Astrum and Emberclaw alike. Don't take your time deciding. He nods once toward the monolith, still dormant but flickering dangerously. I've only bought you a few minutes. Silence. Lathar steps forward. He doesn't kneel. His voice is quiet, but strained. like he's forcing it through a tightening chest. So, you've been my enemy all along. Alex looks down at him, expression unreadable. The air between them is heavy, not with mana, but with something deeper. Trust, the edges of betrayal. Enemy? Alex says evenly. No, Lathar. I've never seen you as an enemy. Lathar's eyes harden. But you're not one of us. Everything you said. This kingdom of yours, you've been hiding it all this time, watching us, using us. The crowd around them stays deathly still. Even the Astrum commanders don't speak. Alex's voice remains calm, too calm. Tell me, Lathar, he says, floating a little higher, his tone shifting from cold to pointed. Aren't you stuck at the peak of Tier 5? Lathar's mouth tightens. Alex flicks his hand. Thwomp. 10 books materialize around him in a perfect spiral. Each one radiates so much pressure that the air visibly warps around them. Runes shimmer down their bindings. Complex, ancient, viciously dense with magic. Then another 10 appear, different symbols, different power. Elemental cores swirl inside them like living eyes. 20 books. 10 Tier 6 skills. 10 Tier 6 spells. Floating. Waiting. Gasps ripple like lightning through the soldiers. Is that? Those are Tier 6 books. I've never even seen one before. Even our 2 leader only have 3 each. Lathar stares up, stunned. Even the Astrum commanders falter, eyes wide, heart sinking. Where did you even get that many? Alex doesn't answer. He simply lets the weight of it all settle. 20 books pulsing with enough power to tear apart cities. And one man standing at the center of it, unshaken. I don't need to fight you, Lathar, Alex says finally. I still respect you. He tilts his head, voice quiet. But if you raise your sword against me now, I will crush you. Lathar doesn't respond right away. His fists are clenched at his sides. The disappointment in his eyes burns hotter than anger. He looks around. At the monolith pulsing back to life. At the soldiers, confused, frightened. At the kneeling ones. And then, finally, back at Alex. Floating above them all, crowned in silence and fire. Lathar inhales slowly, the muscles in his jaw tightening. He doesn't look away from Alex as he speaks. His voice low, heavy. I'll ask you, he says. Can you defeat the 2 lords? Alex doesn't hesitate. They're just Tier 6. Not even peak Tier 6. His eyes narrow, the faint golden glow intensifying. I can kill them together. The air grows still again. A murmur runs through the remaining soldiers. Stunned, uncertain, afraid. Chapter 197. Tier 7 Beast. Even without using my items. He thinks, eyes flicking briefly to the still flickering monolith above. I can take those 2 down. Easy. Lathar exhales, then steps forward, closer than before. There's something different in his voice now, not suspicion, not anger, but a sharp, quiet fear. You must be eyeing our continent. Alex tilts his head, his expression unreadable. Promise me, Lathar says. Promise me you won't become the next Astrum. Promise me you won't enslave, conquer, or burn. The wind whistles faintly as the sky cracks further above them. And Alex answers firmly without pause. Of course. He speaks with no theatrics now. Just a steady, grounded truth. I don't find joy in enslaving others. And I won't oppress those under me. He looks down, not with superiority but with certainty. My people aren't my tools. They're my strength. I won't rule through fear. Not like Astrum. The soldiers shift again. Some are watching Alex differently now. More than fear, more than awe. Something bordering on hope. Belief. Lathar studies him. Really studies him. His fingers twitch like he wants to unsheath his sword. Out of habit, out of instinct. But he doesn't. He lowers his gaze for the first time. A long breath escapes him. Then prove it, King of Erevaris. Alex's eyes narrow slightly. What do you mean? Lathar straightens. You say you won't oppress. Then don't force them. Show them. He nods to the field. The chaos, the scattered bodies, the silence still stretching like a blade across it all. Give them a reason to follow, not a threat. Alex glances down at the soldiers. Some kneeling, some trembling, some standing but uncertain. He looks at them not as pawns but people. Then he lowers slowly, descending until his boots touch the ground with a faint crunch of glass and frost. The books vanish, dissolving into threads of light. And he speaks again, this time to everyone. I'm not your enemy. I'm not here to take what's yours. He raises a hand and points to the monolith above. That is the real threat. And right now, I'm the only one who can stop it. He steps forward, his voice calm, resolute. Before anyone can respond. Boom. The ground trembles. The monolith groans, groaning as ancient mechanisms churn deep inside it. Black smoke jets from the base, followed by a deep, guttural clang. Then, a voice, mechanical, cold, emotionless, echoes from within the structure. Assessing anomaly, everyone freezes. A blood-red bolts coursing through the cracks above. Critical deviation detected. A low hum begins to rise, a resonance that makes the very bones in the soldiers' bodies vibrate. Alex's gaze sharpens. Releasing the Guardian. A heavy thud follows. Then another. The wall splits open, hissing steam and grinding stone echoing across the battlefield. Then, a massive claw wreathed in flames bursts out and slams down on the earth, sending shockwaves that knock lesser soldiers off their feet. A massive lion-like beast steps out. Its mane roars with fire, flickering like a solar storm. Each breath it takes ignites the air. Its eyes burn like molten cores, locked onto the intruders. The aura hits like a tidal wave. Oppressive, suffocating, dominant. The Tier 4 and below soldiers crumple to their knees instantly, unable to even raise their weapons. Many collapse altogether, trembling. The commanders act fast. Shields raised, barriers flaring to life as they scramble to protect their units. Some scream. Others can only stare. Alex doesn't flinch. He looks at the beast, massive, glowing, seething with untamed power, and tilts his head slightly. Then he speaks almost casually. Oh, a Tier 7 beast. What a surprise. He hovers higher again, cloak swirling. That single sentence echoes like a thunderclap. The crowd collectively stiffens. Eyes widen. Some soldiers gasp. Others go pale. One of the Emberclaw commanders drops his blade. Tier 7? Someone whispers. Is he serious? That's impossible. I've never seen a Tier 6 beast, let alone. Why would it even be here? Alex doesn't answer them. His eyes remain fixed on the beast, studying it. Calm. Analytical. Even as it releases a thunderous roar that sends flame rolling across the battlefield. The flames never touch him. It's as if the inferno parts around him. And slowly, tensely, the crowd begins to understand. This isn't just a show of power. It's a reminder that the only one standing between them and annihilation is him. Alex hovers just above the scorched ground, his eyes never leaving the blazing lion beast as it snarls and paces like a living furnace. Each of its breaths sends sparks rippling through the air. But Alex? He exhales once, slow, steady. Then he speaks. Now I will show you. His voice rings clear across the battlefield. That you will not regret your decision. In an instant, 15 Tier 5 skills activate at once. Blades of radiant light spiral into his body. Auras of strength, speed, clarity, willpower, durability, elemental resistance, and raw destructive might. Each skill pulses with a shockwave of force, pounding the ground like war drums. The world bends around him. His aura erupts. Not rises, erupts. Like a volcano uncorked. Different elemental energies surge from him in every direction, rippling like solar winds. The sheer weight of it smashes against the beast's oppressive aura, and matches it. The Tier 7 Guardian pauses. Its molten eyes narrow. The commanders back away instantly, instinct overriding pride. What is he doing? That's not Tier 5 power. Alex drops to the ground. Hard. The stone cracks beneath his boots. The beast roars. A column of fire screams toward him, powerful enough to incinerate a Tier 6 in second. Alex moves. Boom. He vanishes from sight, instantaneous. A shockwave trails behind him as he rockets upward, spiraling past the fire with such speed the flames are sucked into his vacuum trail. He slams a glowing palm into the beast's shoulder from above. Boom. The Guardian stumbles. A Tier 7 beast staggers. The battlefield shakes as Alex lands, boots grinding across scorched rock. Cracks spiderweb out from the point of impact. The heat rolls in waves, blistering, but his cloak doesn't even ripple. His eyes remain locked on the Guardian. The Tier 7 beast snarls, molten saliva hitting the ground with a hiss. Then, his core flares. His mane flares out, no longer just fire plasma. The air warps, turning glassy around it. Symbols sear across its forelegs, chest, and jaws, arcane circuits pulsing with crimson light. Then, with a sound like the sky tearing, the beast opens its maw and howls. Tier 6 skill, Solar Roar. A massive sigil blazes into existence above the beast, rotating slowly, like a second sun. From it, rays of annihilation lance toward the earth. Each beam could vaporize fortresses, and a dozen rain down across the battlefield, targeting Alex with pinpoint fury. The air superheats. Soldiers scream as heat washes over them despite their distance. Barriers melt. Even Tier 5 commanders are forced to shield themselves and Tier units with everything they have. Alex lifts his hand calmly. Tier 5 skill, Arcane Glacier. The ground beneath him erupts in a towering wall of ice, but not normal ice. This is crystallized mana, refracting light like a prism, strengthened by his buffs until it's nearly unbreakable. The first solar beam crashes into it. Boom! The explosion is apocalyptic. A deafening detonation rips through the battlefield, sending a pressure wave that can flatten a huge mountain. Ice shards fly like shrapnel, but Alex is already gone. Above, Tier 5 skill, Stormfall Ascent. Wind gathers beneath his boots. Real wind, not summoned, but bent to his will by the raw power of his buffs. He soars upward, dodging a second solar lance by inches. Alex flips midair. Tier 5 skill, Volt Strike. His fist sparks charged with thunder and force. He drops like a meteor, his body wrapped in a storm. Lightning crackles across the battlefield as he slams into the beast's back. Krakum! The impact is catastrophic. The beast howls in agony, thrown off balance as arcs of electricity sear through its molten skin, disrupting the circuits still glowing across its body. The sigil in the sky flickers, but does not vanish. The Guardian whips around, jaws snapping. But Alex is already moving. Tier 5 skill, Pyre Sphere. A compact orb of red-gold flame swells in his palm. Denser than it has any right to be. Buffed with element-enhancing buff skills, it radiates Tier 7 pressure. He hurls it point-blank into the beast's eye. Boom! The explosion throws the Guardian backward, half blinding it. Its mane flares wildly, a flare of white-hot plasma trying to incinerate everything around it. Alex raises both hands. Tier 5 skill, Earthmaw. The ground responds instantly, opening like a beast's jaw. Twin pillars of stone erupt around the Guardian's legs, slamming together and pinning it mid-lunge. For a split second, the Tier 7 creature is trapped, its own mass straining against the bind. Everyone's silent. The shock still hangs in the air, raw, palpable. No one dares speak as the battlefield trembles from the echo of Alex's last blow. Even the wind holds its breath. Then, Brocker leans closer to Lathar, his voice low, still laced with disbelief. Who would have thought he's this powerful? He's fighting a Tier 7 beast, and he's gaining the upper hand. Lathar doesn't respond immediately. His eyes are locked on Alex, still hovering like a living force of nature above the stunned Guardian. His fingers flex slowly at his sides, knuckles tight. Then he says, voice quieter now. Do you think our decision to betray Lord Vareth was right? Brocker breathes out hard through his nose, glancing away for a moment as if weighing something heavy. You know we respect Lord Vareth, he mutters. But we've been doing this fighting Astrum forces like it's our curse. For how long now? 10 years? 15? How many comrades have we buried? How many brothers have we lost? Chapter 198. The Death of the Tier 7 Beast. His voice grows sharper with every word. He looks back at Lathar. And what did we get? What did any of us get for it? We're no closer to the peace we all wanted. Lathar says nothing for a long time. Then slowly, as if admitting something he's never said aloud, you're right. Lathar's jaw tightens as he watches Alex descend once more. His cloak dancing in the heat waves pouring off the Tier 7 beast. With Alex's strength, he says slowly, we might finally bring peace to our continent. Brocker smirks, faint and dry. It's His Majesty Alex now. They both fall silent again, the battlefield trembling with each breath of the monster. He lands lightly on a chunk of broken stone. The Tier 7 beast still partially pinned by Earthmaw, snarling and writhing, plasma licking at its bindings. Alex watches the creature, his gaze unwavering. His heart beats steady, his breath even. But his thoughts race. Even with all my buffs, Tier 5 skills alone, they're not enough. The realization settles like iron in his chest as he watches the Guardian begin to break free. Muscles rippling beneath lava-slick skin, circuits reigniting across its limbs. His plasma mane flares once again, surging in fury. I'll need more. Clean finish. No drawn-out clash. Which means... Alex's eyes flash. It's time to combine them. He raises both hands, energy gathering between his palms. Different than before. Not one skill. Not two side by side. But two powers woven together. Threads pulled tight through a technique almost no one alive could perform. Dual casting. The energy in Alex's hands roils. Unstable, brilliant, furious. Dual casting. The battlefield seems to lean in. Let's try this. He murmurs under his breath.
Tier 5 skill, Infernal Lance.
Tier 5 skill, Stormpiercer Blade. Flame and lightning spiral into one another, crackling and snarling like wild beasts forced into the same cage. The heat of Infernal Lance, a long, spear-like projectile of hypercondensed solar flame, clashes violently with the razor precision and velocity of Stormpiercer Blade, a cutting edge of wind and lightning meant to split sky and stone. But Alex doesn't falter. His hands guide the fusion, forcing them together, layering the offensive matrices, binding their conflicting elemental cores with sheer will and a master's control over mana channels. Above him, it darkens. Even the Tier 7 beast hesitates, its instincts screaming. A single blade forms in his hands. Not a sword, not a spear, but something between long, jagged, glowing with both internal lightning and external flame. Pulses once, and the entire battlefield winces. The winds howl as if fleeing. Fire bends toward the weapon like a reverent disciple. The air splits around it. Even the commanders watching from afar feel their skin crawl. Brocker grips his chest, stunned. What is that? The Tier 7 beast feels it too. Its instincts shriek old and primal. That weapon, that technique, is death. But it does not retreat. Instead, it flares. Its molten mane explodes outward in a spiral of burning plasma. Crimson circuits re-etch themselves across its limbs and chest, deeper, brighter, jagged now with desperation. Its eyes blaze white, and then it lifts its head. A guttural howl tears from its throat, shaking the chamber like a collapsing mountain. Tier 7 skill. Starfall Core. A burning sigil forms above the beast. No longer golden like the solar sigil, but deep crimson, etched with planetary rings and falling stars. It spins once. The chamber groans. Everything tilts. Gravity reverses for a moment, pulling rocks into the air. The temperature spikes to unholy levels as a condensed orb of collapsing flame. Not explosion, but implosion. Forms at the center of the battlefield. The beast channels it down its throat. Alex narrows his eyes. So that's your final card. With a sharp breath, he throws the combined skills. The world breaks. The fusion weapon screams as it slices through the air, and at the same moment, Starfall Core detonates. Blinding light. White, red, gold, blue. A collision of two powers no mortal realm should ever contain. The chamber howls like a dying god. Walls fracture. The floor splits in spiderweb patterns. The very air turns dense with pressure as flame and thunder clash with imploding gravity and burning stardust. Screams are torn from throats. Even the commanders, battle-hardened and blessed with resistances, drop. Shields shatter.
Mana ward struck.
And then, a silence. Not peaceful. Vacuum. Empty. Then boom. A second shockwave rips outward, hurling dust, stone, and plasma in every direction. The light fades. The world settles. And slowly, cautiously, everyone begin to blink, coughing, stunned. They find themselves huddled together in the corner of the chamber. A transparent barrier surrounds them, stretching dome-like over a wide radius. Even the broken ground beneath them seems untouched, held together by some greater force. Lathar pushes himself up, arm trembling. Lathar stares, and it hits him. Did Alex save us? No one speaks at first. Then a young soldier nods slowly, tears running freely down his soot-covered face. He did. He protected all of us. The murmurs start soft, then grow louder. A man collapses to his knees, overcome. A woman raises her arm in salute, eyes blazing. An Astrum commander stands with clenched fists, his voice hoarse. And then, they see him, a silhouette, hovering above the dead beast. The Tier 7 Guardian lies motionless, half its body melted and cracked open by the heaven-rend fang. The fused blade is buried deep in its ruined chest, lightning still flickering faintly along the edge. And above it, Alex, hovering, cloak torn and scorched at the hem, arms at his sides, his body casting a long shadow over the broken colossus below.
No halo.
No title, just presence. A single man against the impossible. And he won. The cheers erupt like a dam breaking. All hail His Majesty Alex. Long live the sovereign. He saved us, all of us. Alex, Alex, Alex. The chamber that once held silence and fear now roars with adoration. It echoes off the shattered walls, growing louder, more unified, until even the wounded lift their voices. Lathar wipes a streak of blood from his cheek, eyes never leaving Alex. So this is what it feels like to follow someone who changes the world. Brocker laughs. Raw, broken, hopeful. No more running. No more blind war. He clasps Lathar's shoulder. We fight for something now. The ground rumbles. Cracks race across the scorched stone. Columns groan and buckle. Dust rains down from the high ceiling in thick sheets. What the hell? A young Ember Claw soldier shouts, stumbling as the chamber tilts. Whoa! What is happening? Another points to the ceiling as chunks of stone begin to fall. This whole place is coming down. How are we supposed to get out of here? All eyes turn to the man still hovering above the fallen beast. Alex lowers himself slowly, his boots touching down with quiet finality atop the creature's scorched hide. His eyes flicker over the crowd, calm and unreadable. Then he speaks, loud enough for every soul to hear, even over the chaos of the crumbling chamber. So, his voice cuts through the air like a blade. All of you, are you ready to become my people? A stunned silence. Then, Lathar steps forward. There is no hesitation. He drops to one knee, his fist pressed to the ground. I owe you my life, and more. My blade, my battalion, my future. They're yours now, your majesty. One by one, the soldiers behind him follow. First a few dozen, then hundreds. A thunderous wave of knees hitting stone. Brocker watches it happen with a quiet, thoughtful look. Then he chuckles and mutters, guess there's no turning back now. He walks to the front of his warband, turns, and drops to one knee beside Lathar. Brocker's men do the same, hardened warriors bowing their heads without shame. Commander after commander follows, each of Emberclaw's leaders falling in line, their loyalty sworn without words. But to the side, the Astrum forces remain standing. They shift uncomfortably, exchange uncertain glances, whispers pass between them. Some grip their weapons, some lower their gazes. One commander, tall and gaunt, steps forward. He looks up at Alex, jaw clenched. We've fought under Astrum's banner for years, he says slowly. But most of us. He glances back at his weary soldiers. We didn't have a choice but to follow Astrum. He kneels. The chamber seems to still for a beat. Please, he says, voice low. Accept me. Let me follow you, your majesty. It breaks the silence. Another Astrum officer follows, then two more. And then the flood begins. Soldiers, tired, lost, uncertain, begin to kneel one after another. Some do it slowly, unsure. Others drop down with relief, as if a weight has been lifted from their shoulders. They kneel not because they were ordered. They kneel because someone gave them hope. A new chant begins, softer this time, but no less powerful. The ceiling splits wide above them. But before a single stone can fall, a golden pulse flashes from Alex's feet, spreading like a ripple across the entire chamber. A second barrier expands outward, solidifying just before impact. The falling rubble bounces harmlessly off the shield and scatters to the sides. Gasps rise from the crowd. Alex lowers his hand. Then rise, all of you. He looks across the crowd. Emberclaw and Astrum both now kneeling as one. From this moment on, he says, you no longer serve dying empires. You serve something new. He steps down from the beast's corpse and onto solid ground. Follow me, he says, and I will build a world worth bleeding for. They rise. Alex turns, his eyes scanning the collapsing chamber. The rumble grows louder now. Ceiling stones crashing, fractures racing up the walls like lightning. The air is thick with dust and heat, and even the strongest among them can feel the weight of impending ruin. Brocker frowns. Your Majesty, this place isn't going to last. If it seals again, we'll be trapped. Ladhar finishes grimly. Chapter 199. The crypt is collapsing. Panic ripples through the ranks. Some soldiers glance toward the massive, sealed gateway at the back of the chamber. Still closed. No obvious way out.
No teleport circles. No escape.
But Alex doesn't flinch. He reaches into his cloak, fingers brushing across something cool and ancient. Then he pulls it out. A talisman simple in shape, but etched with delicate, pulsing runes. It glows faintly in his palm. The light steady even as the world around them trembles. No one speaks. They all stare. What is that? Brocker mutters, eyes narrowing. Alex lifts it so they can see. This, he says calmly, is our way out. The air stills. Even the debris seems to hang suspended for a moment. It's a teleport talisman, Alex explains, voice carrying clear across the chamber. One-time use, designed to carry a group out of sealed realms. If the lock isn't set by a higher being or something worse. Everyone turns toward Alex, stunned. Murmurs ripple through the crowd like wind through dry grass. A teleport talisman that can teleport a group? Is something like that even exist? Where did he get something like that? Did he make it? Or was it given? No one speaks louder than a whisper, as if afraid the talisman itself might vanish if they questioned it too much. Alex doesn't explain further. He simply activates it. The runes on the talisman ignite with golden blue light, then rise like burning leaves from his palm, swirling upward in a vortex that expands fast. It forms a dome of shifting energy, enveloping every soul within the collapsing chamber. And in the space between one breath and the next, they vanish. The world returns. The air is fresh. The sky is endless blue. A vast stretch of plains greets them. Wind rolling over green grasses, wild and unbroken, stretching to the horizon. There are no landmarks, no cities,
No walls.
just open land and sky. The soldiers blink. Many fall to their knees, dazed. Some grip the earth as if to convince themselves it's real. We're outside. Someone breathes.
No guards. No seals.
It's just grass. Ladhar scans the horizon, hand instinctively on his sword. Where are we? Alex, standing at the front, doesn't look back. He gazes out toward the far distance, his eyes calm, unreadable. You're safe now, he says. That's what matters. The wind rustles the grass. The silence holds. Then Alex speaks again. You'll wait here. A 10-meter giant will arrive to fetch you. Don't be alarmed, it's loyal to me. The soldiers stir. A what? A giant? Brocker lets out a low whistle. A real giant. You just keep surprising us? Ladhar steps forward, voice cautious. Your Majesty, are you going to? Alex turns his head slightly. His voice is calm, quiet, but resolute. Yes, Alex says. I'm going to end this. The words fall like iron. The murmurs stop. Even the wind seems to pause. Then he adds, but if Vareth is willing to submit to become my subordinate rather than my enemy, I'll spare him. That choice is his to make. Ladhar clenches his jaw, a flicker of hesitation flashing in his eyes. Then he drops to one knee, head bowed. Not in fealty, but in earnest plea. Then let me come with you, he says. I served Lord Vareth for years. If anyone can reach him, if there's a chance to change his mind, I'll find it. Alex watches him quietly for a breath, then nods once. Very well. Without another word, Alex lifts into the sky, his cloak trailing behind like a shadow cut from the wind. Ladhar follows a beat later, rising with practiced ease, his silhouette streaking into the heavens beside his sovereign. The others watch in silence. Deep within the Valgros kingdom, the royal crypt. The stone walls quake. Dust rains from the high, arching ceiling as the crypt groans under its own weight. Pillars, ancient and ruined, shudder as though the breath of a giant passes through them. King Rewalt stumbles, catching himself against the cold stone. His eyes are wide, frantic. The seals are destabilizing, he growls. We have to stop this. If the tomb collapses. Prince Asdri stands at his father's side. Father, what is happening? Their voices echo, swallowed by the trembling chamber. A moment later, figures rush through the corridor behind them. Mana licks the air like the scent of lightning before a storm. Vareth, his jaw set and eyes sharp, strides forward with Sphira just behind him. Her expression unreadable, her gaze flickering across every crumbling sigil like she's memorizing them. Astrum is at the rear, slower, flanked by his loyal men. Karwal, tall and grim-faced, and Tandu, whose eyes flick around warily like a beast ready to pounce. You're losing control of the crypt, Astrum says flatly. His tone isn't accusatory. It's a simple observation, clinical and cold. Rewalt wheels on him. This tomb is older than my bloodline. You think I'd risk it lightly? Something's happening inside. Vareth halts in the middle of the chamber, his massive frame casting a long shadow in the torchlight. Cracks spiderweb beneath his boots as another tremor shakes the ground. His golden eyes flick toward Rewalt, narrowed, unreadable. Then, voice low but heavy with weight, Vareth asks, "What will happen to my people inside? If the crypt collapses?" The question hangs in the air like a blade. Rewalt hesitates, just for a breath. Then, he draws in a shaky inhale and answers, "Everyone inside will die. I read that what lies inside the crypt is an entire realm unto itself." His voice is brittle now, a sealed dimension within the folds of this tomb. If the structure falls, if the seals fracture, the realm inside will collapse with it. Nothing will survive. The words land like a thunderclap. The air stills, the tremors pause, as if even the crypt itself is holding its breath. Then, the temperature drops.
So fast.
So sudden. Frost blooms across the stone in jagged veins. The torchlight dims, flickering wildly. And in a blink, Astrum is no longer at the rear. He's in front of Rewalt. A gust of displaced air ripples outward as the general materializes, hand gripped around the king's throat, lifting him clean off the ground. Rewalt chokes, his feet dangling inches above the trembling floor. His crown slips, clattering against the stone. Asdri, wanting to act, finds himself frozen in place by Astrum's overwhelming aura. Astrum's voice is low, too low for a man so filled with rage, but it carries, every word a threat carved from iron. "If anything happens to my commanders," he breathes. He leans in, voice colder than the ice curling up the walls. "I will raze your kingdom to the bedrock. I will slaughter your people and burn your cities. Not even your dogs will live." Rewalt gags, struggling against Astrum's grip, but doesn't speak. He sees it. This isn't a bluff. This isn't theater. This is death, caged only by the thinnest leash of control. Vareth steps forward. His crimson aura crackles with furious energy. His great hand curls into a fist at his side, claws grinding against his gauntlet. Vareth's voice is like thunder rolling low across a storm-swept plain. "Humans," he growls, glaring down at Rewalt. "You better have a way to stop this from collapsing, or I'll let Astrum follow through on his promise, and I'll help him." Sphira stands at his side, face like carved stone, her mana already beginning to shimmer subtly around her fingers. Rewalt wheezes as Astrum finally loosens his grip, letting the king crumple to one knee. The old man coughs, then raises his eyes, still wide, but not pleading, determined.
Ido, Rewalt gasps.
"I do have a way, but I need your help." He pulls something from within his robes, a shard of dark crystal shaped like a jagged fong, pulsing faintly with sigils. As he raises it, the air around it hums, reacting to the mana in the chamber. "This is the key," Rewalt says. "It was forged with the original seal. It can stabilize the internal realm, if we can infuse it with enough raw power." Another tremor rocks the chamber, more violent this time. A crack shoots across the floor, slicing between Vareth's feet. Rewalt continues, louder now. "But I can't do it alone. Not even close. I need all of you. Channel your mana into the key. With Vareth and Astrum's power, with your subordinates, all of you being tier 6 or higher, we might be able to hold it together." "Might," Astrum echoes, his tone sharp. "That's not good enough. It's the only chance we've got." Rewalt snaps, finally showing a flash of fire in his voice. "We either try or everyone inside dies, including your soldiers, your people." A silence settles again, the kind that tests men. Tandu steps forward beside Astrum, his fingers already crackling with shadow-bound energy. "Say the word, my lord," he says quietly. Karwal just nods, expression unreadable, but mana already rising from his skin like smoke. Astrum exhales slowly. Rage still burns behind his gaze, but he turns, just slightly, to glance at Vareth. The Beastkin Lord meets his eyes, and nods once. "Fine Astrum matters." "But if this fails?" "It won't," Vareth cuts in. Then he steps forward, planting himself beside Rewalt and the key. The ground trembles again, and this time, the cracks start climbing the walls, threads of ruin etching toward the ceiling. Rewalt shouts over the rumble. Now! Channel it. Focus your mana into the crystal. One by one, the others step forward. Varith places his palm near the shard, his crimson aura flaring around him like a rising sun. Svira follows, fingers weaving intricate signs that direct her essence in clean, precise lines. Astrum steps in next, arms crossed but power surging from his very skin, raw and cold. Karwal, Tandu, all of them. Chapter 200, The True Strength of the King. Minutes of focused silence, of gritted teeth and white-hot energy surging into the pulsing shard. Mana floods the air, so thick it's hard to breathe. The stone chamber becomes a crucible, light flaring brighter with every passing second as the crystal absorbs the full brunt of Tier 6 power. Sweat beads on Rewalt's brow. His lips move, ancient syllables, a stabilizing chant passed down through centuries. The sigils on the walls begin to shift, threads of light knitting back into broken wards. The tremors slow, the cracking walls groan, then, still, the crypt stabilizes. A breathless moment passes. No one moves. Rewalt finally lets out a long exhale and slumps forward slightly, catching himself on one hand. It's done, he murmurs. Varith straightens but doesn't relax. His golden eyes bore into Rewalt. What now? He asks. Where are they? You said once the crypt was stabilized, they'd be teleported out. Rewalt blinks. Yes, that's what should happen. They should start appearing. But a minute passes. Then another. The air remains still. No one appears. No surge of light. No shimmer of displaced air. Nothing. Astrum's eyes narrow. He says coldly, Why haven't I seen my commanders yet? Rewalt opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. He looks toward the sealed altar in the far end of the chamber, then back at the shard, still glowing faintly, now pulsing much slower. I don't know, Rewalt admits, his voice almost breaking. It should have worked. Unless something interfered. Astrum takes a step forward. Karwal and Tanda do the same. Asdri grabs his father's arm instinctively. Father! Rewalt turns to him quickly, urgently, voice low, fast, almost a whisper. Asdri, listen to me, he says. If any of them start attacking, I will activate the kingdom's Tier 6 defensive array. It will buy you enough time to run. Run! Asdri's voice cracks. Where? You can't mean. There's a portal chamber hidden behind the ancestral altar, Rewalt says, gripping his son's arm tightly. It's connected to an unknown continent. Far from here. No, I'm not leaving you. Asdri shakes his head. We can fight together. We can fix this. Rewalt's gaze sharpens, even as his hands tremble. Asdri, promise me, he says. If I die here, if our kingdom falls, I want you to survive. And when you do, take revenge. Asdri's lips part, but no words come. I've watched you grow, Rewalt says, softer now. And I know you'll surpass even them. One day. But not if you die here. What are you two whispering about? Astrum's voice cuts through the tension like a dagger through silk. Cold, sharp, unmistakably dangerous. Rewalt straightens, but before he can answer, Astrum vanishes. Asdri! Rewalt roars. Now! The ground shakes. A tremor, violent and thunderous, ripples through the floor and up the walls of the ancient crypt. Outside, the entire capital city of Valgros begins to tremble, as if the earth itself is waking from a long and bitter sleep. Then the towers ignite. 3 mage towers, positioned in a vast triangle around the kingdom's heart, flare to life. Their spires pulse with arcane energy, each beam of magic shooting skyward before curving inward, forming a dome of flickering light above the city. Arcane glyphs spin in the air around them, circles upon circles, ancient and precise. A boom like a divine drumbeat shakes the air as the 3 towers sink. Pillars of raw mana crash downward in thick beams of brilliant energy, targeting the crypt's outer walls, not to destroy, but to contain. Rewalt spreads his arms wide, his voice rising in a roar as he calls on the towers. You monsters think you're above us. His voice rings with fury, desperation, and pride. You think because we have no Tier SIXS we're defenseless. This is my kingdom. You will not break it without a fight. He slams his palm into the ground. A pulse of mana erupts from him, linking with the towers. The glyphs around his body shimmer, forming a living diagram between him and the 3 colossal arcane constructs outside. The very air grows heavy. Astrum appears again, mid-air this time, weaving between the falling tower beams. Too fast to follow. The mage towers adjust, tracking him like divine sentinels. Their beams curve unnaturally, bending space, tearing across the sky like god-forged whips. Astrum narrows his eyes and spins through a mid-air glyph strike. He barely avoids one tower's piercing beam, but a second tower locks on, launching a spiral of burning sigils that detonate midair. The shockwave knocks him back, ice forming in the wake of his movement. It's impressive that your kingdom have something like this. Astrum snarls, landing in a crouch. But it'll take more than toys to kill me. Rewalt lifts both arms, blood running from his nose now. His voice is raw. I know this won't be enough to kill the two of you, but your subordinates won't be as lucky, he growls. All three towers converge their beams into a singular point, aimed not at Astrum, but at the heart of the crypt itself. A containment field blossoms, mana walls folding over one another like massive petals of glowing steel. He doesn't wait, doesn't warn, doesn't hesitate. In a blink, a spear of condensed arcane energy forms in his hand, shaped like jagged crystal and charged with the fury of the towers above. He hurls it forward with terrifying precision, not at Astrum but at Karwal and Tandu. Karwal reacts first. His hand comes up in a fluid motion, a barrier of fire forming just in time to catch the incoming spear. It shatters on impact, but the force sends him skidding backward across the stone, boots carving trenches in the floor. Tandu darts forward, eyes flashing. He's turning on us, he snarls, and leaps into the air, a huge war axe in his hands. Rewalt raises both hands. From the ceiling, a dozen beams of light crash down, each one tracking Tandu like celestial spears. Karwal curses under his breath. Damn, using the towers like an extension of his body. He's synced with the whole city. Tandu vanishes in a flash, reappearing just behind Rewalt, axe raised to strike. But Rewalt smiles. A glyph flares beneath Tandu's feet, hidden until now. Tier 5 skill, Mirror Reversal. There's a flash of pure light, and Tandu is launched backward, crashing into a pillar as his own attack is redirected into his gut. He groans, smoke rising from his armor. I told you, Rewalt breathes, arcane lines glowing up his arms. This kingdom is built on blood and preparation. Astrum steps forward, cold fury in his eyes. The temperature in the crypt plummets. Frost begins to bloom along the edges of the stone walls, creeping like veins of white death. Human, he says, voice low and seething with power. After I kill you, I will freeze the city to its bones. Not a soul will remain warm enough to scream. Rewalt rises to his full height, unflinching. Then I die standing, and you'll remember that. Without warning, Astrum lifts a hand. The frost surges outward like a crashing tide.
Tier 5 skill, Cryolance.
A spear of pure ice forms in the air, whirling with jagged shards. It tears through the space between them in an instant, but Rewalt twists aside, barely dodging, the spear carving through stone behind him like paper. He retaliates, palm flashing. Glyphs swirl outward as one of the tower beams answers his call. A massive arcane blast roars toward Astrum, radiant gold laced with silver lightning. Astrum lifts both arms. Tier 5 skill, Permafrost Bastion. A wall of translucent ice erupts from the ground, thicker than a castle gate, its surface glowing with runes. The tower blast crashes into it, but doesn't break through. Cracks form, but the wall holds. Rewalt doesn't hesitate, he teleports behind it midcast. Tier 4, Spatial Shift. Astrum spins to meet him, but Rewalt is faster, thanks to the 3-tower buffing his peak Tier 5 strength. His fist, wreathed in energy, crashes into Astrum's ribs. The impact sends a wave of kinetic force outward, cracking the floor and knocking both Karwal and Tandu back down. Astrum grunts, he's hurt, not badly but surprised. Rewalt follows up. Another glyph lights under his foot and arcs to the ceiling. Tier 5 skill, Heavenfall Array. Dozens of radiant bolts rain from above, each one honed by the tower's power, guided like missiles. They all home in on Astrum. Astrum lifts his hand again, cold light swirling around him. Tier 5 skill, Glacial Nova. With a flick of his wrist, a blast of cold explodes outward. The bolts freeze mid-flight, halted inches before impact, then fall to the ground in shattered fragments of golden frost. Rewalt charges through the mist. His sword manifests in his hand, a blade forged of condensed tower energy, humming with layered glyphs. He slashes. Astrum blocks with his forearm. Ice encases it mid-swing, but the blade cuts through halfway before stopping. Blood stains the frost. Astrum snarls. Enough. Then fall, Rewalt spits. They clash again. Fist meets blade. Glyph meets frost. Firestorms erupt from defensive spells. Ice rains from the ceiling as Astrum tries to summon a local storm. The walls of the crypt tremble with every impact, runes flaring and dimming in rapid succession. The mage towers groan. Their beams sputter. One of them, the eastern one, dims slightly. The field over the capital flickers. Rewalt stumbles. His breath is ragged. His face pale. The glowing lines across his arms are flickering now, unstable. Astrum notices. You're burning through the tower's reserves, he says coldly. You won't last much longer. I don't need to, Rewalt growls, raising his hands again. Another beam slams into Astrum, but this one only scorches his cloak. Astrum wipes away the embers. Then he exhales and the air howls. Enough games. I gave you the honor of dying as my enemy. Now you die like the rest.